All right, everybody, we are on the air. Please find a seat, quiet down. Thank you. Good morning. This is the regular meeting of the United Laguna Woods Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual corporation. Today is Tuesday, April 10th, and it is 9:30. We are in the boardroom. I will call it to order. We have one director missing. Our secretary, Maggie Blackwell, is tiptoeing through the tulips in Amsterdam this week. Lucky her. So Director Leonard, as his swan song, has offered to fill in today as his last day. He's also going to lead us in the pledge. If everyone would stand, please.
Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes. Okay. I acknowledge media. Is our press representative here yet? No. Often they watch it on TV, and I know we have our wonderful guys upstairs taping this for us. Approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I second.
Okay. So the motion was made by Steve and seconded by Andre. Do we have any additions, any discussion, any additions or
Chair.
corrections?
I would like to table item 13A because it was not discussed and I want to do more research.
Cash, this is just a first reading. It goes out for 30 days. We're not making any decision on that today. New business, April notification, 30 days postponement. So you do get another 30 days to look at it before we vote on it at our next meeting. Pat?
But we haven't even discussed it in committee or anything, this particular issue. And there's a lot of problems with it.
All right, well, it has been discussed in committee, and we encourage you to come to the Governing Docs Committee for further discussion. We meet next Monday, and I'm sure we can look at it again. But that's a concern that we all have, I think. We get our agenda package for agenda prep, but we don't get the backup. We don't get the resolutions and everything because they don't come in that soon. So when we get our agenda package the weekend before our meeting is the first time that we can actually read through the resolutions in the staff report. So all of these under 13 are new business and are just the first, except E, and are put ahead for 30-day notice. Manny?
I asked about this at the prep meeting, and you said, well, we'll cover that at the meeting. I didn't know it was gonna be this involved, so I'd like to make a motion to table this item until we've discussed it.
Well, what good is it gonna do to table it, Manny, when it's already tabled and for 30 days?
Because I want to discuss it amongst all the directors.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's why.
You have that ability, but to table it means
I
we
wanna do
put
it
it
here.
to a different meeting, and it's already put to the May meeting.
I asked about this item, and I didn't get a very good answer at the prep meeting.
Okay? Pat?
No, I feel we should have the right to discuss it, not just.
Right, we will read the resolution, and if you want to discuss it at that time, certainly we can, because we will have a motion to introduce it, and if you want to, as discussion after that motion, if you want to have any discussion, that's fine. If you just need more time to review it, et cetera, then you've got 30 days before our next meeting when a decision will be made. Andre?
Bad resolution.
Madam Chair, as you know, I have some special circumstance, so I didn't get a chance to attend the committee meetings. So this is my very first time looking at this one, and I didn't see it anywhere else. So it's a big surprise to me. So hopefully we'll have some time looking at it and then talk about it rather than talk about in separate environment rather than everything bring up to the
Well, again, when it's brought
public
up
meeting.
next month for final vote, there will also be discussion there. And if you would like to discuss it further among the board, we can do so in closed session, or I can call a special meeting.
So it's a standard practice that we're going, once the committee vote for that, we just bring it up and we don't need to discuss among the board members
Of course
anymore.
we do.
Then
The
where is that
the only
opportunity
thing
to
from the
discuss
committee
that?
is it brings it forward with an endorsement. Then it has to be voted, a first reading, it has to be discussed, voted on at a second meeting by the board. Nothing is cut and dried, and often something that is brought up from a committee is turned down by the board. So there's no automatic process there. Cash?
One quick comment. It is an excellent approach, but what I'm looking at is it has to be made properly, and some of the things there written are not too kosher, like 18 months time period. Nobody wants to hold money for 18 months. Sellers and buyers will start arguing. A lot of work needs to be done. And I understand your point. We have 30 more days to look at.
I'd be glad to discuss this,
Thanks.
besides the 18 months has been changed.
Thank you.
What
All
if the
right,
18
is
months
there
has
any
been
further
changed? What has
discussion?
it
If
been?
not, can I have a vote, please, to approve the agenda? All those in favor?
Right, sir.
I don't know if we're using screens or not. Opposed? 2. All right, the meeting minutes of the March 13th meeting, the regular open session. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the March meeting. All right, motion by Steve, seconded by Janie. Any discussion, additions, corrections, whatever, to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the March meeting? Race, are you voting? Okay, it's unanimous without objection. All right, report of the chair. There are a couple of things. As I said, Maggie was gone, and when we get into reports from the various chairs, I were reporting a couple of things from her committee. But for those of you particularly on TV who may not stick around that long, I would like to announce that at our landscape meeting, which is April 25th, here in the boardroom, we will be having a presentation from the Aliso Creek Foundation. This is the presentation that was given at City Hall and was written up in the paper. There were many, many questions. I got lots and lots of calls because they interpreted it differently. They think that they're going to have dump trucks up here and all of this waste. No, nothing being done is in the village. It is all way downstream in Wood Canyon. She has a wonderful slide presentation, so particularly our creek people, those of you that are interested and want to see what's going on down there, please come to the Landscape Committee meeting. Okay, I think that's all I had this time. So we will open it up to our members who want to speak. This is regarding items that are not on the agenda and are within the jurisdiction of the Board of Directors. Maximum time limit of 3 minutes, and you'll have your little clock up there when you come to speak. So Cheryl, who's our first speaker?
We have Chris Collins.
Okay. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. I am Chris Collins. I'm 3306Q. I'm here again today to bring an update on the work of the Foundation for Laguna Woods Village. What do you do when there are only a few cans of food left in the pantry and no money in the monthly budget to buy any more? Unfortunately, this is a problem that does happen to some of our neighbors. One of the sources of help is the foundation, which provides grocery cards to needy village residents. All they have to do is to contact social services to see if they qualify. Foundation assistance can also mean helping on electricity, continuing telephone service, paying for a needed prescription, or paying for medical, dental, or respite care. Another source of help is the South County Outreach Food Pantry, which is in Irvine, and there local residents can receive a week's worth of food from the pantry once a month. The pantry's opened on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9 to 3:30, and on Tuesday from 12:30 to 3:30. If a village resident needs transportation to the South County Outreach Food Pantry, the foundation will provide transportation once a month, and you can get that by contacting social services. There is another food pantry available here in the village on the fourth Wednesday of each month in Clubhouse 7 from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., and it's provided by the Saddleback Church. Additionally, the Crossline Food Pantry, which is located on Moulton Parkway in Laguna Hills, is available as well to South Orange County residents that are in need. It offers free food 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 11 to 1 p.m. Another source of food is available to eligible needy seniors who are at least 60 years of age. This is provided at the Lutheran Church of the Cross, which is here in Laguna Woods. They actually have two programs. First one is called the Senior Food Box, and it's available on the second Tuesday of the month. This program has an income requirement in order for eligibility. The second program available there is called the Senior Grocery Program, which includes fresh fruit, vegetables, meat, dairy, and bread, and it does not have an income requirement. This program occurs twice a month on Fridays at 10 a.m. Here are the dates for upcoming food distribution: April 13th and the 27th, May 11th and 25th, and June 15th and 29th. Now, for all of these various programs, you need to call the social services to get more information, or you can also call the foundation at 949-268-2246. Messages that go to the office voicemail at the foundation we do make an effort to check these messages every day. So thank you for your ongoing support of the work of the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village.
Thank you, Chris. And we thank the foundation and our social services department. They are unique in our community, and we really appreciate all the work they do. I might ask, I see Eileen sitting back there, this would be a really good, all of those dates and places that she had for an article in the Breeze, so that everybody can see when and where they can take advantage of that. Thank you. Cheryl?
Our next speaker is Maxine McIntosh.
Good morning, Maxine McIntosh, 68C. I want to address a meeting, a GRF ad hoc meeting of huge importance to this community regarding the complete remake of Clubhouse 3 as a performing arts center. And when the committee gave their report, all of you probably have not heard that yet. They had their architect there giving an estimate of what he thought it would take on the first try on renovating that building, which came to over $10 million. And he said that the $10 million did not include everything. It did not include what he felt was necessary, construction manager. We had a construction manager for the renovation of Clubhouse 2, and that was very important. Didn't include city fees, among other things. And I feel something like that is of huge importance to the village. And during the GRF board meeting, that when they gave a report on ad hoc, that they should say openly, you know, their president, Tom Circle, talks all the time about being open, and I know he encourages his board to have openness with the community. But nothing was mentioned. This is such a big thing. When it's not mentioned, it suggests to me that they're trying to hide it a little bit, not disturb people, not get them worked up yet. And if they're planning to get another estimate in at a lower level, you know, a lower amount, they could have mentioned that. But nothing was mentioned about the over 10 million being spent there. The remake of Clubhouse, or the retitle of Clubhouse 3, early in the year, we were told that it was changed to Performing Arts Center to help attract more good performing groups who don't really like to think they're performing in a clubhouse. And most of us understood that. We were not told it was a plan to completely take away the effectiveness of that building as a clubhouse and turn it all into a performing arts center. That should have been stated right up front and wasn't. You hear little things going along with the meetings. And I just want to be sure you're all aware of that, because this could be a huge expense for the mutuals, and it really concerns all of us. And I do want to thank the board, and probably Juanita Skillman in particular, for putting in the extra, what do you call them, grip rails in the restrooms. I've heard so many good comments about that. Usually you have to go find the big one with the broad door. If you need a rail, just grab when you stand up. And now they're throughout the, I guess throughout the village. Is that right, Juanita?
This building, anyway.
Yeah, this one to begin with, that's for sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, our last speaker is Pamela Gruntke.
Am I on? Good morning, board. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the community. I come today to set the record straight, and I do not intend on having this conversation again. My words are directed to a resident Lonnie Painter. Resident's Voice was declared a club 13 years ago. We became an integral part of this community. We own the domain name of Resident's Voice. It is not to be bantered around lightly. No one else has my permission or the permission of Patriots of Resident's Voice to use this name. This name was used without my knowledge and without my consent. And I am insisting that this person desist and stop using the name of Resident's Voice. It is not yours to use. If you are a leader of any kind of magnitude, you will find another name. I have not relinquished the name of Resident's Voice. I do not intend to. I do not know what your ideology is. I am not in sync with you. I do not approve of you. I do not approve of your lack of ethics and courtesy. So, I stand here today and say, stop using the name of Resident's Voice. It is thievery and it is totally unjust. I hope I have made myself clear. There is only one Resident's Voice, and right now, it is retired. It is not to be used by you or anyone else. And I hope that I have made it very clear to Mr. Painter. I am not going to discuss this with you. It is not up for negotiation. I hope that you will take my warning and my heed and stop using this name without any concern for ethics or morality. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. And that's it? All right. Excuse me. We now have responses to the speakers. Are there any board directors who would like to respond? Then we'll go to Brad. Let's start with Cash.
I would like to, first of all, thank Chris Collins. She's doing an excellent work here. And what I would like to suggest is maybe publish in the Globe letters section all this food pantries list so that people are more aware of it. Maybe it is there and I haven't looked at it.
No,
But-
Marcy Steinwald is putting this exact article into the
Okay.
Globe with the phone numbers and all that stuff. And I didn't say the phone numbers today, because when I did it at GRF, it exceeded the 3 minutes.
Thank
So it'll
you.
be written.
Also, I would like to say to Maxine for being diligent and bringing that point to our attention on Clubhouse 3, $10 million budget. We'll look into it. Thank you.
Pat?
Yes, I would like to thank Maxine for bringing that up. It's a very important point. Another thing that I'm personally concerned about is the fact that at least one of the directors on GRF has a personal reason for wanting this to happen, and in my opinion, should recuse herself. Thank you.
All right. Don?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Pam Grunke said. I remember when Pam and Connie Grunke and a couple of others started Residents' Voice. It's one of the most effective organizations we've ever had here in the village, and I didn't realize others were using it, Pam. But I completely agree with you.
Steve?
To Pam, thank you for coming today and clarifying that. I had seen the postings on Nextdoor myself, and I would caution everyone in the community who uses Nextdoor to always fact-check anything that they may read, because many unfounded statements are made and opinions. To Maxine, on the PAC renovation, I'd like to say that the ad hoc committee, I have been a member of that since it was formed, and the overall view of this had always been, what can we do to bring up our clubhouse to a level which would be more appealing? And nothing is decided. It is an ad hoc committee. There is the last presentation report from SVA. It is available on the website for everyone to be able to download. I have actually taken that link and posted it on Nextdoor myself. So if you are a member of Nextdoor, you can find it there. And nothing is decided, nothing is determined. There are several levels that could be engaged in the refresh of PAC, including mobility, elevator, freshening, curtains, normal stuff. And then whether or not to go to the greater extent of spending additional monies for improvements of the theater and building the accessory theater as well. So nothing is decided. It's going to be a long process. And I know it sounds like a lot of money, but that's one of the things that GRF does. They have to be responsible for the upkeep and the maintenance of all of our clubhouses and all of their facilities, and I'm sure the board will be very diligent in making proper decisions. Thank you.
Gary, did you?
Yeah, I want to thank Chris Collins for your work in the foundation. Maxine, thank you for bringing that to our attention, and thanks, Steve, for clarification, and we'll be watching that. And Pamela, thank you also for bringing that forward, and I'm behind you.
Okay. Now it's your turn, Brad.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Andre.
That's my request.
Yeah,
That's my request.
no, don't have it, but I went around there and you didn't raise your hand, so you're welcome to speak now.
Okay. Thank you very much for Chris Collins about the foundation work. This is very important to our community, helping out a lot of people. And I visited Saddleback Church food pantry several times, and even help the people. I know there are a lot of people that have fruit trees in their yard, and if you have extra fruit trees you don't know where to send to, you can talk to them and send those fruits to them. Go to the Saddleback Church and they will help you out, distribute the food to those needies. And also there's a Sylvester's Senior Center. They also have lunch, low-cost lunch that you can really enjoy. I tried that once, and that was really good. So people, if you have want to go out eat with other seniors and have the time, you are encouraged to go there. Okay, that's helping out a lot. As far as the Performing Arts Center, my question, we're going to bring it up during the GIF meeting. The question I have is, this is a community theater. This is not a public theater. If we make it public, we will have security issues. And there are so many good performing arts centers in the neighborhood. We're going to compete with them. I've get involved with Performing Arts Center before. If you don't have a good manager that can attract those good people in, you won't get any good people in, and it's just a waste of money. And that's my experience with the Performing Arts Center. Thank you very much.
Brad?
Thank you. I appreciate Maxine's comments. I did want to echo some of what Steve said. There's a 65-page report on our website under the news section that goes through this whole process. I think the community needs to be aware, we spent about $7 million, a little more, on a 12,000 square foot facility at Clubhouse 2. This is a 29,000 square foot facility that is arguably, at least with respect to electrical and mechanical systems, in similar condition, and with respect to the behind the curtain conditions, they're so dangerous, they're chained off. Also, the air conditioning there runs 50 tons, even if there's one person in the building selling tickets. 50 tons of air conditioning for one person selling tickets. It's a little inefficient. So I just want to remind everyone, these buildings haven't been maintained for 50 years. And now we're going to have to go in and spend some money. And guess what? Clubhouse 1 is much bigger and probably in worse condition. And we're doing the assessment right now. So there's some pretty big ticket items ahead of this community. One is Clubhouse 3, Performing Arts Center, Clubhouse 1, and then Clubhouse 4 as well has been neglected for decades, and we've been steadily trying to build it up, but there's an expense there too. So I just want people to know, you get 50 years out of a building, you're probably doing okay, particularly when the maintenance has been substandard. So I invite everyone, look at the numbers, look at the report that's on the website. There's a lot of good things we'd like to do. There's a lot of value engineering to bring the cost down too, and so that'll occur as well. So we're just at the beginning, not at the end, and I invite everyone to participate in committee meetings, GRF, we have the subcommittee, a lot of things going on. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next item on the agenda is our update from our VMS director, Dick Rader.
Good morning, everyone. Are we on? Yeah, my slides. There they are. The VMS board meets at least twice a month, and we have in-depth reports from the department heads, which allows us to provide oversight over the VMS management team. These reports are quite detailed, so I'll only provide a few highlights. The Human Resource Department has a new head, Carrie Weldon, because there was a retirement that occurred. And in the short time that she's been with us, she's identified areas that need to be improved, and this is being taken care of by increased staff training. The department has also initiated a safety hazard program whereby all staff members are encouraged to report any safety hazard issues, and the aim is to reduce the potential for injuries throughout our village. If you were here on Friday, you may have noticed the back of this building that there were some tents. And that was the Human Resource Department holding a job fair to try to attract the best talent available for any open positions. Christine Spar is revamping the resident services to ensure better customer service. For example, she is cross-training the staff in the various aspects of calls. Her goal is to have each person who responds to your calls so knowledgeable that there will be minimal need to transfer you to another person to complete your transaction. She has also increased the hours that staff is available to assist us without any increase in cost or personnel. For example, those now handling Saturday calls are not being paid overtime. Instead, they're compensated by giving them a weekday off. Aging ticket report. Detailed reports are now being kept on the number of work orders and how soon they are fulfilled. This is being shared with each department, maintenance, landscaping, painting, etc. And this has resulted in a dramatic reduction in the number of work orders that are taking too much time to complete. I now want to tell you about the Laguna Woods 2020 vision. In 2015, when we're moving towards our own management to replace PCM, a group of people, Richard Johnson, Mary Stone, Catherine Freshley, amongst others, listed 20 items that they thought would improve our village. Their hope was that these items would be completed by 2020. In 2016, in January, Brad became our CEO, and he also started to develop thoughts on how to streamline village services. I think it's interesting to compare some of the 2020 wish list with what Brad independently wanted to accomplish. The first item in the 2020 wish list is property services upgraded with new handheld technology to track status and performance of all activities related to service activity in real time. Until recently, supervisors would have to handwrite details of what job was done, who did it, how long it took, etc. And then this information was passed on to another person who would enter into the computer system. How laborious. Brad is now in the process of providing tablets to supervisors in the field, so this information is typed into our computer system in real time. This allows supervisors to spend time supervising rather than going to their desks to write up reports. So that vision is becoming reality. Another vision. Property services requests can be entered by a resident at a kiosk in the new services center or from home via their computer or cell phone. Once the new resident services area is completed, you'll be able to walk into customer service, type your manager number in, sit down in a comfortable chair, wait till your number is called, and then submit your service request. Status of service requests can be accessed by phone or personal computer. We will also be alerted on your computer or phone expected time of arrival for the repairman, including letting you know if there's any unanticipated delay, also when your job is expected to be completed if it could not be finished in one visit. Financial information, as well as relevant resource utilization data available with appropriate tools for analysis and insight. We're now in a new era. Formerly, the prior management company often handled some of the financial and other information as if it was their proprietary data. The 2020 visionaries wanted the boards to have freedom of access to financials so they could properly perform their fiduciary responsibilities. Brad has gone way beyond this. Our new website allows even residents to view the green books, which provide the business plans for each year. You can review the monthly financial reports of each mutual, and you can also see what projects are being planned and monitor their progress. Metrics. All processes are mapped with performance measures and metrics driving appropriate behavior changes. I mentioned earlier about how work orders are being monitored for each department and how this is leading to faster completion of these orders. Here's another vision. Clubhouse manager is accountable for successful performance of all service activities for the clubhouse, and the managers meet to compare performance and practices. This is now happening. The meetings, clubhouse managers are meeting to share ideas, increase efficiencies, and give them more responsibilities to improve clubhouse operations. We now have a new website, and it will soon be made even easier to use. Community newspaper. Well, we have the Village Breeze and What's Up in the Village, plus a community calendar now posted on the website. Whoops, did I skip one? Oh. I had another one in here. I don't know why it is. Oh, maybe this is it. No? Okay, I had another one, which it said to reduce the length of time that the boards meet. Well, they didn't quite do that, but what Brad did accomplish was he got the committees to agree that they would meet, rather than monthly, they would meet every other month. And this is important because it reduces staff time required to participate in these meetings, which means they have more time to complete the various tasks that they have. So, in summary, the 2020 group had envisioned these 20 items. They're now coming to fruition, not in 2020, but in 2018. Interestingly, Brad and his team not only came up with similar goals, but this is only the proverbial tip of the iceberg. Stay tuned, because in the coming months, there are many initiatives that will increase productivity, save money, enhance services, and I dare say, make our village one of the preferred senior communities in the entire U.S.
Thank you, Dick. I might let everybody out there know that we have 3 representatives appointed by our board on the VMS board. Dick is one, Mary Stone is another, Tony Liberatore is another. And we consider them part of our group. We try to, of course, work with them as much as possible so that they know what we need and can take it to the VMS board. We know what's going on at the VMS board and have any comments on it. So they're an integral part of our board association. Thank you, Dick. Now we come to the CEO report. Brad, it's your turn again.
Thank you, Madam President, honorable members of the board. It's my pleasure to be here, members of the community. It's been an interesting month. We had some great Easter events. We had the Easter dinner at Clubhouse 5, and then, of course, the wonderful event that occurs at the Equestrian Center. Some of you may have noticed that we've been upgrading our security cameras around the village. We're putting in digital cameras, and we're adding more of them. And so we think we're going to be able to keep a pretty good eye on the community. But we did happen to capture these characters here on one of our cameras around the Easter time. They were very suspicious. This has been forwarded over to Chief Moy for his review and investigation. So hopefully we'll figure that out.
Did you catch that thief?
We're moving forward with all your programs, the epoxy program prior to paint, which is the same as a dry rot program now. We're just doing it all at once. I think it's working beautifully, very well done. And then, of course, all your electrical upgrades and many other things. So I want you to feel confident that Ernesto and his team will finish the scope of work you provided for them this year, probably a little bit early. And if you have some more stuff, maybe we'll throw that on the pile. But don't tell Ernesto I said that. You might have noticed that the median over by the Performing Arts Center has been changed. And remember those plum trees that were there? We all love plum trees, but they're susceptible to virtually every disease known to plant life. Cancer, pox, spots, insects, they attract it all. And those were pretty well diseased. Also, I thought that those trees provided a blocking of people crossing the street there. And so we've kind of made that a lower California scape, which we think will save some water and also be safer when people cross the road there when they're parking for big events. And I apologize to the United Community in advance, but you're about ready to get a big event on the 20th, which is the Senior Summit. And so I know there'll be parking in the neighborhoods and on the major roads. And I thank you in advance for your tolerance. It's a very important event, and I think well attended by members of our community. I'm pleased to announce that after a tortured month or two, Pool 4 is open. We had a number of problems there. When we removed the plaster, the structural elements underneath there were failing, and so we had to go in there and beef up the structural elements before we could replaster. We got that done, and then we found a slab leak leading from the hot tub whirlpool over to the equipment room, which had been leaking apparently for quite some time. And so we got that repaired, and that took a little bit longer. And certainly I apologize to residents, but this is what happens when you don't do regular maintenance. Then you jump in there, you find more things than you thought you were going to find. And so we got that cleaned up. You should be good to go for hopefully many, many years. Let's just say I probably won't close it as long as I'm here. So enjoy, unless something else breaks, of course. As Dick mentioned, we're getting ready, and some of it has, the small pieces have already started to change the way we deliver services here at the community center. And so we're moving some things around. The first piece you'll see, and it's still a month or so, maybe a little longer away, is creating a separate space for manor alterations. Those interactions don't really belong in the resident services area. They tend to be more lengthy and detailed, and people want to lay out plans. And so we're creating a space for that, just for manor alterations, and we're also establishing an appointment basis for that too, if you want. You can always drop in. But if you're busy or you can only get here at a certain time, we'll make an appointment for you to come visit us in Manor Alterations. And then after that, we'll follow that up. Maybe a few months after that, we'll do the resident services area, which is going to provide no lines, no standing up. It's sit-down service. You log in when you come in at the kiosk or tell the receptionist what you're there for and your Manor number, and they will take it all from there. So I think you're going to be very, very happy with the increased service that you'll get from that new effort, but that's still a little ways off. We're trying something new, and I know you'll support, but what we'd like to do is to have each mutual select 2 committees to have their meetings televised. And so Third has already selected M&C. I haven't got the second one yet. And so what we want to do, right now what we do is we have 6 hours of original programming every day. We run it twice and then 12 hours of message board. That's a lot of message board and not enough programming. And so we'd like to every day run a couple of committee meetings too, and maybe get that down to 12 hours of program, maybe 6 hours of committee meetings, and then 6 hours of message board. So that's kind of the breakdown we're looking at. And so I would ask, Madam President, if you would let me know what your preferences are and talk to your members, because I think or first tell me if you'd like to participate. I'm sure you would, but we've talked about it before. I think it'd be a great way for residents to get an inside view of how committees work and maybe gauge their future participation if they kind of see it on TV first. I did want to let you know that I'll be up in Sacramento on next Tuesday testifying before the Judiciary Committee on our bill. And I have, which looks very good. If you recall, the bill covers the election by acclamation. If you remember last year, both Third and United, because of really bad law, had to conduct an election at great expense to residents when the number of candidates was exactly equal to the number of openings. In any city council or board of supervisors, they're just automatically appointed. But for HOAs, we get special treatment, and we have to run a formal election that is totally unnecessary. So this bill would correct that. The other thing it would do is this 30-day notice period. 8 times this year, in 2017, the United Board had to put their action off 60 days because there wasn't 28 days or 30 days between meetings. This bill would lower that amount from 30 days to 28 days, so you can always take action at your next meeting. So we think that's going to be good. And the last piece would allow, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year mailing big, thick documents out to 12,000 plus manors. If we could do that electronically, you could put that money in the bank and do some good in the community or keep assessments down. So we're asking for the authority to have residents request electronic communication for those big, thick documents, so we can just email them to you, and you can look at them at your pleasure and save on the postage, which is the big expense, and the printing expense of mailing these huge documents out. So those are the 3 things the bill does. Eileen will be contacting each of you later in the day to ask you, either as a board officer or as a resident, if you would sign letters of support for that, and we'll get them up to the Judiciary Committee prior to my testimony. So I thank you in advance for that. On Monday, yesterday, we moved forward with our bandwidth improvement program, formerly known as the analog deletion program, where we've removed certain analog channels to increase bandwidth for our internet service and to allow us to offer these new DVRs. So we've been test running the DVRs for about a month. I know we had, I think, 10 or 12 residents who offered to be the guinea pigs on that, and I thank them for doing that. And so now we're going live with installing, I think, these whole home DVRs, which are really cool. They can record up to 6 things at once, 6 channels at once, and also you can go from room to room and watch the same things as you're moving along. So it's really unique, and also it provides easy access to over-the-top services like Hulu or Amazon or Netflix or those sorts of things. So there's a lot of functionality for people who like to have freedom in watching TV when they want. So we offer that service, and there's a waiting list of about 140, I think. And so if you're interested in a more robust and self-initiated television experience, please contact Resident Services. Again, as Dick mentioned, we're working on some website navigation. We're going to have some drop-down menus at the top, and there'll be like, 30 or 40 different things you can select to save the multiple clicks. You can just click on the thing you want. You don't have to navigate the website. It'll take you right where you want to go. I think that's going to be a big upgrade. I'm looking forward to that. And I did want to report that we're seeing sharp increase in our Planneride participation. I think I've reported to this board and the community many times. Between 2005 and 2015, the number of bus rides decreased from 500,000 to 200,000. 60% reduction in bus usage from 2005 to 2015. That's not just us. That's everywhere. If you look at LA Metro bus service over the last couple of years, they've lost like 7 million rides. It's incredible. And it has a lot to do with all these other options that are available out there that are fairly affordable and very quick. And so we're trying to mimic that by providing a Planneride service that is more responsive, maybe requires a little less planning on behalf of the resident, and can sort of fill that niche for folks who don't want to take the bus but don't want to drive either. And so we look forward to enhancing that and working with the Mobility Committee to ferret out all the issues with that and bring that to the community. And then I also wanted to let you know about a couple of events. I talked about the Senior Summit on the 20th. Also on the 20th, we have Simon and Garfunkel-ish at the Performing Arts Center. I understand we have a Simon and Garfunkel fan right here on your own board. It caught him buying tickets over there. Good for you, Andre. And then on May 5th, we have the Kentucky Derby at Clubhouse 5. This is probably one of the better events we offer. We have really good food. I think beer and wine is free. They get mint juleps for $3, and the food is great. That's a good event. We have a hat contest and all kinds of things. So I would sell that a little bit. Maybe I'll come by there and wear a hat. Anyway, that's a really fun event, and I encourage everyone to participate. And then lastly, and most importantly, I wanted to introduce Lori Moss's replacement. Don't introduce her that way, but we've changed the title a little bit from community manager to chief operating officer. And so she's going to be responsible for managing all of the everyday activities of the community for village management services in fulfilling our obligations to the three boards. So Siobhan comes with extensive experience. She has a BA in political science, an MBA, she served as the chief budget officer for the city of Riverside, also the public works director, where she was in charge of water and sewer and street sweeping, graffiti abatement, code enforcement, goes on and on, streets and roads. Pretty much everything to do with the city runs through the Public Works Department. And then she also served as Public Works Director for the city of Pasadena and the city of Covina. So she has extensive experience in construction and operations and making things run efficiently, making things look better. And so I'm very, very pleased to introduce to you Siobhan Foster, our new Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Good morning, everyone. Just want to say how excited I am to be with you, to begin working with you. I get very excited working with involved residents, and that's what we have here in this community. So I'm very excited to get to know everyone, help put together the best possible programs and initiatives for our community, and also work with our management team to improve service delivery. A lot of that work is already underway, and just will help see that through to provide exemplary services to our residents. So again, very excited to join you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. I'd like to emphasize again one of the things that Brad talked about, and that's the senior summit that's coming up on the 20th. Number one, you have to have a reservation. It's RSVP because they serve breakfast and lunch, so they can't have just walk-ins. If you need more information about it, there's a flyer that probably is out here or in social services, the number to call. Tim Moy is one of the speakers. They're concentrating on disaster preparedness, readiness, and it's going to be a great event. So I encourage any of you that are interested to come. It's going to be at the Pacific Arts Center. All right, number 11 on our agenda.
Juanita?
Excuse me,
Yeah.
yes, Pat.
Yeah, I have a little question for Brad. Do you have any more news on the balcony bill?
Yeah, I know that's catching a lot of heat up there, a lot of comments from HOAs, apartment owners, affordable housing advocates, and it's been amended a number of times. I believe it will pass, but it'll pass in a little different form. If you recall, this was in response to this tragedy that happened in Oakland, which involved a slumlord and a bunch of people gathered on a deficient balcony, and there was a collapse and people got injured. And so the legislator from that district is pushing this forward. So I'll probably know a lot more after Tuesday, because I'll be up there and be able to talk to folks and see where it's going to go. And we've commented as well on that bill and a couple of others as well.
Are there any other questions? Andre?
Thanks, Brad, for the great introduction, and people here are so happy, even the thieves are happy. Okay. You mentioned that we want to have 2 committees meetings televised. I fully endorse that. With this, when residents are asking questions, why don't you consider this way? Why don't you consider the other ways? I have this opinion of that. What they don't realize is we considered quite a few of them, and they are all discussed in the committee meetings, and that's brought up the final resolution that we think will solve all the problems. So that will be a great tool to help the residents to understand here are the considerations, why we make all these decisions, help out the transparency and the communication. I fully endorse that, and hopefully residents will be spending time and watching that, helping us understand and say, hey, my questions are already answered. That's not a major, that being considered already in the final results. And a question about email instead of mail. Okay. Will the residents still be able to request documents if they receive the email rather than they have to print it themselves?
They have to request the email. They will get the printed version unless they request by email to receive communication by email. That's the way the bill reads. And that's fine, because we'll send out probably periodically, assuming the bill passes, emails to residents saying, hey, we can save money if you'll accept this information electronically, and then they can opt in. And so we'll keep a record of that. So it's a totally choice of the resident. We're not going to force anybody to accept a means of communication they're not comfortable with.
Well, also my question is also that if they receive the email, but they found out that information there, they need to.
Yes, they can come in and get it,
They can
yes.
come in and request
Sure.
the printed copy. Okay, thank you very much. That's good.
Are there any more questions from board members for Brad? If not, we'll go on to agenda item 11, the consent calendar. All matters that are listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and are enacted by the board in one motion. In the event that an item is removed from the consent calendar by a member of the board, it will be subject to further discussion. On the consent calendar this time, we have 2 alteration items that were approved by the Alterations Committee. We have none under landscape and none under finance this time. And item D basically is the Laguna Hills Memorial Day Half Marathon. And the reason we need to pass this is because it comes through United territory, if you will. It's within our village. They start up at our gate and run down and around. So we have to approve permission for them to do that. So are there any, yes, Pat?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we accept the consent calendar, number 11A, 1 and 2, and 11D. 11B and C are not appropriate because there's no items in there.
Thank you. Do I have a second to that motion? Gary? Any other discussion on the consent calendar? If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Okay, without objection. All right, now we get to unfinished business. We have 2 items on unfinished business this month. The first one, 12A, is that I will entertain a motion to adopt a resolution for closets and interior partition walls policy. As you may remember, we are trying to update our alteration standards, and we have 1 or 2 every month that will make it a standard so that you don't have to go through the expensive variation process, and it just gets done quicker and easier. So this one has to be on closets and interior partition. May I have a motion to approve this? Janie? And a second? Raisa? Okay, is there any discussion? Not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of 12A, the motion to adopt the resolution for closets and interior partition walls policy, please signify. Okay, any opposed? Okay, without objection. Okay, the second one is a motion to adopt a resolution establishing a policy and application for co-occupants. May I have a motion to approve this? Steve?
A second.
Janie? All right, is there any discussion on this particular resolution? Yes. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let's hold 1 minute. First, I have to have Steve, who's filling in for Maggie, read the resolution.
That's my question.
Resolution 01-18-XX, co-occupancy policy. Whereas United Laguna Woods Mutual is an independent lifestyle and age-restricted senior citizen community, as defined by California Civil Code 51.3, no form of healthcare or assisted living is provided by United, and each resident is responsible for his/her own health, safety, care, and welfare. Whereas authorization for co-occupancy is effective only when approved in writing by United and issued in writing by an authorized VMS staff member. Whereas United and shareholders have the right to terminate co-occupant status at any time without cause. However, Civil Code 51.3 may be interpreted to inhibit this right of termination under certain circumstances. Whereas shareholders and co-occupant cannot have a landlord-tenant relationship, and no remuneration will be paid or collected during the duration of the co-occupancy. Whereas shareholders and co-occupant will reside in the unit, and when necessary, the board reserves the right to require proof of residency. Whereas shareholders shall be responsible for the conduct and deportment of the co-occupant. Whereas the board has received concerns expressed by shareholders regarding individuals who are circumventing the sublease process, room rentals, shareholders failing to vet their roommates, and nuisance issues from co-occupants. Whereas 432 units are occupied without a shareholder in residence. Whereas United is authorized to take disciplinary action against a shareholder whose dwelling may be found in violation of the governing documents. When a complaint is lodged regarding the occurrence of a violation, the Board of Directors has a fiduciary duty to investigate and impose, if appropriate, discipline as set forth in the governing documents. Whereas this policy itemizes, consolidates, and clarifies procedures, including the administrative handling of co-occupancy applications. Now, therefore, be it resolved, April 10th, 2018, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts amendments to the co-occupancy policy as attached to the official minutes, and resolve further that this policy supersedes all existing co-occupancy documents And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move this resolution.
Okay, is there a second? Gary? Okay. Okay. Oh, we've already done that, I'm sorry. Steve and Jamie, I don't, you just read it. So now, discussion on 12B. Any discussion from the board? Cash?
I'm wondering if these 432 units are not sublease, but they are without the shareholder in residence. Then
That's
maybe we
correct.
should take action and
That-
do something about it.
This will give us the means to do that. Any other comments? Andre?
Okay, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth, where shareholders and the co-occupant will reside in the unit, and when necessary, the board reserve the right to require proof of residency. Whose residence are we talking about? The member's residence, shareholder's residence, or co-occupant's residency?
Shareholders?
Shareholders, so would maybe state that, just add that sentence, word in there? Okay. Now, there's concern that shareholders may go on vacation or temporary go on other places. At that time, does that mean the co-occupant cannot stay there anymore?
Andre, have you read the staff report? It
haven't,
goes
no.
over that. Yes, under 51.3, they are given a variance if it's the death of a spouse, if there is a hospitalization for any length of time, if there is vacation,
Right.
et cetera, to continue to reside there.
Okay, but what about if they are going on vacation
I-
or going to trip to other
I
places?
said vacation, yes. If they're
Okay.
going to be gone for an extended amount of time, they
And
can,
Is there any limitation on how long they can be gone?
we have not put a number on that, no.
So they can go as long as they want, and it's not a violation of the
As if
policy?
they let the co-op know that they are
Okay.
going to be gone.
Okay, because there are indeed concerns on that reflect to me, so I just want to bring up to the public awareness that at this point, the shareholder residency need to be maintained, and if they are not in the residence, then they need to report to the resident services so the co-occupant can stay there. Now, another question I have is about co-occupancy. You talk about, mention about this issue about residency that are not. What about if at one time my mom was in very bad health, and I was thinking about bring her to my unit so I can take care of her. Okay, is that going to be violate the co-occupancy policy that bringing somebody who needs help?
Yes, it will be unless you notify resident services and put her down on your unit as a co-occupant. Otherwise, she can stay only 60 days.
Yes, so if I bring in somebody who needs help and.
You can apply for co-occupancy.
We can, so it's not limited, they don't have to be really independent, they can be dependent.
It would be a special variance.
Special variance, okay. And also has received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whereas the board has received concerns expressed by shareholder regarding individuals who are circumventing the sublease process, room rental shareholder failing to vet their roommates, and the nuisance issued from co-occupants. And the next one, we see that whereas 432 units are occupied without shareholders in residence. I commend that the committee did a thorough job in studying, how many units have a co-occupant. But do we have any number about how many units are causing these nuisance issues from the co-occupants? Do we have any information on that? I think.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And that's compliance, and we'd be glad to talk to you about it in closed session, but compliance issues are not open.
Well, we're not talking about individual issues. We're talking about statistics. So is there any statistics that indicating that it is a major issue, major concern? If they are only about 10 cases, then it's not a major concern. If they are, 200 issues, then we are in big trouble there.
Well, as you will see when we give the disciplinary report, that there are, I'm looking now to see what the number is for that, but we do give that number, and it is a large number for illegal occupancy.
Yeah.
Okay, I just hope that, we have the full 32 here, we should have the other numbers here to justify that, make it looks right. Okay, thank you.
All right, Pat?
Yes, I'm voting against this because I don't understand all the implications of this, and also any problems with Civil Code 51.3. 51.3, of course, would override any of these things that we write down. So I'm voting against it anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We take into account 51.3, it's mentioned in here, and said that it would be upheld. All right, are there any other questions or discussion? Yes, Brad?
Yeah, I would just point out, and I think you alluded to it, illegal occupancy is the number one violation that you have, followed by unauthorized alteration and landscaping, carport clutter.
You're giving my
nuisance.
report.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a whole bunch of stuff there.
Yes.
But illegal occupancy is our biggest concern and
Correct,
problem.
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And when someone is approved as a co-occupant, they are told that they cannot live there unless the occupant is there, except under very special circumstances. And 51.3 details those circumstances. So any other discussion? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this resolution? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I will vote 6. All right, all those against it? 1, 2. Reza, are you voting?
Yes, voted for. You voted for.
You voted for. I'm sorry, couldn't see your hand. Thank you. All right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 to 4? Is that right, Gerald? No, 6 to 2. 7 to 2. Thank you. See, that's why we have these people watching. I can't do it on there. There we go, right up on screen. All right. All right, now we will look at new business. All right, and this would be 13A, and I'll ask Steve to read this. This is a resolution for resale deposit policy.
Resolution 01-18-XX, Resale Correction Policy. Whereas on April 8, 2008, the Board of Directors approved Resolution 01-08-65, establishing an 18-month time requirement for new members to complete corrections for which funds have been held from the seller. Whereas resale inspections and inspection reports are an integral part of the resale process, and corrections noted on the inspection reports are vital for the protection of mutual property and assets. And whereas staff has found the current resale policy to be administratively burdensome and withholds funds for an unreasonable length of time, now therefore be it resolved April 10th, 2018, that the Board of Directors hereby introduces the resale correction policy. Resolve further, corrections and deficiencies found in the resale inspection will be noted in the report, and a predetermined dollar value will be assigned to each correction. Resolve further, the seller will be held responsible for the corrections and will be given until the time of final inspection to make the corrections. Resolve further, when corrections are incomplete at the close of escrow, a sum of values assigned to the corrections will be withheld from escrow to be used to correct the deficiencies. Resolve further, after the close of escrow, staff will use a combination of staff and outside vendors to ensure that the corrections are made to protect mutual property and assets. Resolved further that Resolution 01-08-65, adopted April 8th, 2008, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purposes of this resolution. I so move this resolution.
Do I have a second? Gary? Okay. Discussion?
Yes.
And as you notice at the bottom, this has gone forth for 30 days and will be discussed in April. Yes, Pat?
Yeah, the very top line says on April the 8th, 2008. Is that a mistake? Or
No.
did some directors have a meeting?
That was when this resolution, the first one was approved, Resolution
2008. Thank you.
01-08-65. We're just correcting it here. Manuel?
Yes, what bothered me about this resolution is that the original one bothered me too, but I wasn't here at the time. That 18 months seems way too extreme as far as allowing time to correct these deficiencies. I think that should be reduced to 6 months. I would think should be sufficient time. And the other comment I have to make is that I think you need a clause in here saying that once all the corrections are completed and paid for, any remaining deposit sums should be returned back to the seller. So those are my two inputs.
Thank you. Any other comments, Steve?
I believe if you carefully review the policy, it says that previously funds were held for up to 18 months. The new policy states when corrections are incomplete at the close of escrow, the corrections will then be made using the funds forthwith, and if there would be any remaining funds, those would then be basically distributed back to the seller. Well, what if you're withholding funds and there are no corrections necessary, then at the close of escrow, the funds are released. If there are problems with the unit and there were issues that were unresolved by the seller prior to closing, then funds are used to correct the issues. It's pretty standard operating procedure.
I'd like to ask Kurt if you would come up and speak to this. This is our Director of
Madam President,
Operations.
I would
Yes.
certainly like to speak before Kurt does.
All right, good, okay.
I don't like this policy, either the old one or the new one. It's one of two horrible policies. The first was the electrical reimbursement, where we spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars calculating a $5 reimbursement for a resident who had something plugged in at their manor. We've gone to the fixed fee on that. I think that's great. Here in this case, why are these units allowed to close unless the corrections have been made? Every time I've sold a house and I get a correction list, I have to get them done before it closes escrow. Why do we want to accept responsibility for this? Hold money, give money back, give some of the money back, pay for contractors. That's completely a seller responsibility. If they don't want to make the corrections, it doesn't close. And that's the way real estate works. Now, the brokers won't like this because we're doing all their work for them. In the real world, your broker finds a handyman who takes care of this stuff for you so you can close. That's how real estate works. And so I think we should stop this practice, not withhold money, not make these corrections. Most of them are very minor. Now, if it was some structural problem or something, okay, we can always make an exception there, but these are really minor stepping stones and heaters and things like that that have to be corrected. And then we withhold, of course, for a heater, I think we withhold $1,500. Heater actually costs about $700. So there's all that problem with the estimate. Pat, you recently got estimates that were eye-popping. I'm sure it didn't cost a handyman $9,000 to do that. So my suggestion would be put it on the sellers. It's their responsibility, not yours, to correct deficiencies prior to the close of escrow.
Okay. Cash?
One thing that came to my attention, there are some buildings that upstairs, the water heaters are in a closet and there's no drain. Now, the leaks, if happens, will damage not only their unit, but units below. And sellers sometimes just totally disregard it, and there's no recourse.
Well, that should show up in our inspection report, and if the heater is more than probably 8 or 9 years old, it should be replaced prior to the close, either by us or the resident, depending on who's responsible. And I don't think you've adopted that policy yet.
Or what kind they want, whether they want a regular one or.
Now, I know in third, it's a requirement. You can't close an escrow with an old water heater in the unit. I don't think we've taken that step yet, but it's probably something to think about.
All right, Steve?
In response to Cash's concern on the hot water heaters, if it is a water heater, an original location for a water heater, it's a mutual cooperative issue.
Yes.
It is not a seller issue.
Yes.
We are responsible for replacing hot water heaters unless the hot water heater has been moved to another location under an alteration variance, at which point the shareholder becomes responsible. But if it's a hot water heater that's in a closet, as built, replaced on a 10-year cycle, and being co-chair of M&C for some period of time, I'm comfortable with the topic. It's our issue. So if a share changes hands through escrow, which I think could possibly be a point of contention, since we're not dealing with a deeded title property, what would normally transpire in being able to withhold an escrow may not be, we'd have to check with counsel, I believe, because we're talking about the transfer of a share. So I think that's one thing we'd have to defer to legal on. But on the hot water heaters, that's our issue. And yes, there are no drains in a lot of the units, which required the city mandating that we had to install the Watts devices, which has now been pulled back because we found another alternative device, which was half the cost and much easier to install for less money. And in other code upgrades recently in the last few years, it is now allowable to drain hot water heaters through existing plumbing. Now, whether or not that is financially viable is a case-by-case basis. But it is one of the things that we as a mutual through M&C have had to been dealing with here for about the last 4 or 5 years and will continue to have to do so. Because, again, we do own the property.
All right, Andre?
Okay, thank you very much, Brad, for giving us that insight information. I believe what your concept is great. It works for the condo, it works for the single dwelling house, that you have the deed. However, we have the deed, so we need to require them to fix us, and we give them approval to complete the purchasing. In that concept, in that process, that works. Okay, we will identify all the deficiencies that the seller needs to improve, and if they don't improve, then we don't approve the sales. Okay, so that's a list that we have to go, checklist we have to go through. And, but we are not responsible for holding any money or anything because we don't approve it. That's it. Okay, but before this date, they need to fix it up. And then, whenever they fix it up, we'll sign off and say, okay, the deal will be done. I think that would be probably what you're trying to explain to us. Thank you.
Any other comments, Don?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Brad said. Is put the onus on the seller. Make it very simple. And staff could write up something better than we could and bring it back to us. What I would suggest.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
Sure, I make a motion that staff write a policy that is more effective in terms of time and cost.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, so, okay, let's see. Legally, I guess we need to vote on the first motion. If it's voted down, then we will vote on Don and Pat's motion. So all of those in favor of the motion as it reads now? Oh, I'm sorry, Janie, did you have a?
I just wanted to make a comment that we've got to have some flexibility here a little bit. There was a transaction trying to close, and it was a problem from staff finding something at the close of escrow that we had buyers trying to move in. They had to move out of their unit or their home, trying to move into our unit. Things needed to be fixed, and staff came in. Thank you, Kurt. And we were able to get it all together, but we did close the escrow, and we did have a situation where we had items that needed to be fixed that were discovered at the last minute. So whatever we do, please have flexibility for certain things that do come up. Don't just, shut it, close it.
No, I agree. We always have discretion when unique or unusual things occur that were unexpected, and we can be flexible enough and creative enough to deal with the few of those that happen.
Things that are caught on the first inspection that are not corrected by the final inspection, I think
Yes.
is the things that we should close, delay escrow on. Barbara?
I didn't fill out a card, I'm sorry, but I think you need to define your two categories for violations. It says here mostly the seller is going to be held responsible to correct violations, but it doesn't describe what the united responsibilities are. And that's, I think you should be definite. And also, I'm an old broker. Do they ever sell anything as is here? And we used to sell houses as is.
Barbara, that went out a long time ago in the real estate business.
Well, see, that dates me.
All right, so we're voting on the original motion, all those, yes?
As far as Barbara's concern, selling as is, I think all they have to use right. They can sell use right as is, but they cannot sell property as is, because that's mutual's property. So there's no such thing as selling property as is. Thank you.
All right, we're voting on the first motion to push this forward 30 days to April. All those in favor? 2. All those opposed?
The first motion?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm opposed to that.
Okay. All right, motion fails. Now we'll go to Don and Pat's motion to send it back to staff to update and bring forward to us at the next meeting, one with the concerns that were expressed by the directors today, and we'll vote on it then. All those in favor of Don and Pat's motion, please raise your hand. All right, it's unanimous. All righty. 13B, a motion to introduce a resolution for soffit and ceiling policy. Would you read the motion, please, Steve?
Resolution 01-18-XXX, policy for alteration of soffits and suspended ceilings. Whereas the Board of Directors of United Laguna Woods Mutual established policies and procedures for the construction of any alterations, additions, and expansions, and whereas the Board, through Resolution 011794, adopted and implemented the revised land use policy, which prohibits the Board from granting use of common area for alterations, whereas the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Development Act defines the area above the interior space of a unit as common area, and staff receives numerous requests for alterations to remove suspended ceilings and soffits, which, if done, would encroach into this common area. Whereas the board has consulted with staff and legal counsel and determined that the act permits the granting of exclusive use of use of common area that is generally inaccessible and not of general use to the membership at large, and transfers the responsibility of maintenance and management to the shareholder. And whereas the board has determined that the area above suspended ceilings and soffits meets these requirements. Now, therefore, be it resolved April 10th, 2018, that the Board of Directors hereby introduces the following resolution for establishment of the policy for alterations of soffits and suspended ceilings. Resolve further, an alteration which removes suspended ceilings and soffits that does not negatively affect structural members or the structural soundness of the structures that meets the criteria set forth in the United Architectural Review procedures may be approved by staff through the mutual consent process. Resolve further, any such alteration, with the exception of alterations permitted by the existing and future mutual standards, shall not include any alteration of the structural members or protrude or affect any space above the lowest part of the structural members. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move this resolution.
Do I have a second? Janie? All right, discussion? Janie?
I'd just like to mention that the Architectural Control and Standards Committee tried to work with our members and at the same time with our contractors. This was a discussion that a contractor came to the committee with, why can't we have this? And they have had so many discussions with members wanting to open their ceilings a little bit and get rid of the soffits. Some of them are tall and they have a little problem with the soffit being low in the shower area. Or they want to change, the soffit away, take it away in the kitchen. So I am very much in favor of this resolution, and so are our members along with our contractors. And I'm just bringing this up on the communication that we have with our committee and our contractors and our members.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? All right, we will vote to put this on our agenda in April with 30 days to comply with the civil code. All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
No, I abstain.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I abstain.
Okay. So we have one abstention. All right, 13C, entertain a motion to introduce a resolution for alteration standard general requirements. Would you read that resolution, please, Steve?
Yes. Resolution 01-18-XX. Section 1, General Requirement for All Alteration Standards. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standard Committee recognizes the need to amend alteration standards and create new alteration standards as necessary. Whereas the general requirements are and should remain the same for all alteration standards, and amending the general requirements requires amending every individual alteration standard. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standard Committee recognizes the need to remove the general requirements from each individual alteration standard and create a new alteration standard for the general requirements, eliminating the need to revise all the alteration standards for a revision to the general requirements. Now therefore be it resolved April 10th, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the following standard section 1 for the general requirements of all alteration standards. Section 1, general requirements for alteration standards. 1.1, permits and fees. A mutual permit is required for all alterations to the building. A City of Laguna Woods permit may be required. All fees for both mutual and city permits shall be paid for by the member and/or his or her contractor. Member and/or his or her contractor must provide the alterations division with the city permit numbers prior to beginning work. 1.2, member's responsibility. The member is solely responsible for the maintenance, repair, and/or removal of all alterations to the building. 1.3, codes and regulations. All work shall comply with all applicable local, state, and federal requirements, including but not limited to the current edition of the National Electric Code, NEC. Work hours. 1.4, work hours. No work shall commence prior to 7 a.m., and no work shall be permitted after 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Work on Saturday shall be permitted from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for work which results in construction-related noise, e.g. cutting tile, hammering, and the use of power tools. For work that does not result in excess noise, such as painting and carpet installation, permitted work hours are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. No work whatsoever shall be permitted on Sundays or holidays. 1.5, plans. The member applying for a permit shall provide to the Alterations Division a detailed plan for approval indicating all work to be done, i.e. size, location, description, and specifications. 1.6, dump sites. The premises shall be kept free of accumulation of waste materials and/or rubbish caused by construction work. The member and/or his or her contractor are responsible for removal of debris and excess material and must leave work areas broom clean daily. Use of community dump sites for construction-related dumping is not permitted. Cleaning of paint tools, buckets, or equipment is prohibited in common areas. Contractors or members' dumpsters, if required, may not be placed in cul-de-sacs or parking spaces. Location must be approved by the Alteration Division. Contractor. Installation must be performed by a California licensed contractor of the appropriate trade. 1.8, contractor's conduct. Members, contractors, their personnel, and subcontractors shall refrain at all times from using profanity, abusive, or loud language, and must wear shirts at all times. Radio, MP3, CD, or cassette players are not permitted on the project site. Contractor personnel will, at all times, extend and exhibit a courteous demeanor to residents. 1.9, parking. Parking of contractors or other invitees' vehicles is prohibited in covered resident parking, open resident spaces, handicap spaces, cul-de-sacs, or fire lanes. Contractors or other invitees must park on the street. To the extent possible, contractors or other invitees' vehicles should be limited in number. Resolve further that the general requirements of all alteration standards will be modified to reflect the changes, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written. I move this resolution.
Do I have a second? Janie? Discussion? Cash?
I have a couple of things. Most of the contractor workers, anyway, need some kind of music to go along. And why we restricted them during the work hours, that creates less noise restriction as compared to power tools or anything else. Second thing, objection I have, or suggestion I have, is should the deposit that the contractors must pay up front be included in this general provision? I didn't see any, anything to that effect.
No, that's
Maybe
covered in another resolution. You're right.
Yeah, but maybe it should be in this one because it's general. Thank you.
Pat?
Yes, I'm not sure if this is covered in any of the resolutions, but I had one person that was above me, and they decided to do some construction, and darn it, it lasted over 6 months. I'm wondering, do we have a time limit for things like this? Because I really think we should have a time limit. Maybe it's in some other resolution. Maybe we should consider it in a new resolution.
It is in the permit resolution, they get 6 months.
6 months? Okay, thank you.
Andre?
Thanks, Madam Chair. 1.4 working hour. No work shall be commenced prior to 7 a.m. and no work shall be permitted after 8 p.m. And then talk about Saturday. Is there a quiet hour before 8 a.m.? I thought there's a resolution that talked about quiet hour. You cannot have you can do preparation work or quiet work before 8, but not loud work before 8. I thought there was some resolution on that, but it's not mentioned here. Okay. Second one is that I agree with contracts contact 1.8. Radio, MP3, CD, or cassette players are not permitted on the project site. I think one way they avoid their noise, that we cannot eliminate the circular saws and those noisy tools. But contractors, sometimes they put on headphones to play those music. Does that mean they cannot even put on headset for the radio that they play? I have no problem they play them, by themselves.
Okay.
And it's probably good for them to, just block the noises, although the music could also be noises, but.
Any other discussion from the director? Okay, we have a motion made by Steve and seconded by Janie to put this on our April meeting, and I would suggest that it go back to alterations with the comments that were made by our directors. I have one comment in 1.6. The last sentence, location must be approved by the alteration department or division. I think I would add security in there. Security needs to be involved in where those can be. So it would be alteration and security division. We will look at 1.8, permitting headphones. The big thing with radios, MP3, CD is because there's so much noise in the unit, they turned it up so loud so that they can hear it, that it makes it a nuisance to their neighbors. Headphones are a whole different matter. We'll look at adding that. And we will look at adding the conformance deposit. And on 1.4, you are correct, Andre. 7 to 8 is the quiet time that they, doesn't result in extra painting, carpet installation. It should be 7 to 8 a.m., not 5 p.m. So we will look at have them making those corrections and bringing it back to us in our May meeting. All those in favor of?
Before the vote, we have
Yes.
one request to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Maxine McIntosh.
Okay.
I think this is very good and very necessary. But Juanita just covered, I think, what I was going to say about that quiet time. So the two of you have clarified that, Andre and Juanita, so thank you very much on that. And also the headphones. I don't think staff would nail anybody who is using headphones. Our staff, like our general manager has told us, they always have a little wiggle room on these things. Mm-hmm. But I have heard time and again, and others have, I'm sure, on morning walks, very loud music coming from workers' radios. And I know they're interfering with people in the community trying to listen to their tapes or the TV programs. So this is a wonderful, responsible thing to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. All right, again, we'll call for the vote on the motion that was made by Steve. Oops, do we have another?
Yeah, Kurt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kurt, would you like to speak? Since this will be going back to you.
The conformance deposit is not on this. If you recall, when you passed that resolution, it was a pilot. It was a one-year pilot, and this is a permanent document. So once that 1 year comes up and the board votes to make it permanent, and then we can add it to this.
Then it would be added to the general requirements.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay. All righty. So again, I'll ask for a vote to move this forward with this going back to alterations for corrections, and then when we see it at our May meeting, the things that we've added will be in there. All those in favor? Any against?
Sorry, I missed that. Sorry, missed what are we voting for?
We're voting on moving this forward to our May meeting, sending it with the corrections or the additions that we have asked for by our directors in this meeting. So they will clarify the policy that we will bring forward at our May meeting with the things that we have asked for, like the headphones and the quiet hours. Those are all not big, those are more or less Scribner errors.
Can we
Yes,
make
Pat?
sure then that those things are included
Okay.
in the resolution next
We,
time?
we certainly will. I have them all written down. I think Janie does too, and it will go back to
Great.
alterations so that when we get the new resolution in May, it will include the things that we as directors have there. So I believe it was unanimous.
No, I abstained.
No, you abstained. All right. All right, this will be 13D. Entertain a motion to introduce revisions to United Mutual's Standard 6 air conditioning. This must also be postponed for 30 days. Steve, would you read that resolution, please?
I'm looking for the fast forward button for this one. Resolution 01-18-XX, revise alteration standard 6, air conditioning units / heat pumps. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend alteration standards and create new alteration standards as necessary, and whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to revise alteration 6, air conditioning units / heat pumps. Now therefore be it resolved April 10th, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby introduces the following alteration standard. 6, air conditioning units / heat pumps. Standard 6, air conditioning units / heat pumps. 1.0, general requirements. See standard section 1, general requirements. 2.0, applications through the wall AC / H/P units.
Heat pump.
Heat pump. 2.1, units must be installed in knockout panel areas under windows or as determined by the alterations division. 2.2, units must not be located more than 12 inches off the floor as measured from the bottom of the unit unless otherwise approved by the alterations division due to site conditions. 2.3, no unit may project directly into a walkway area or into a breezeway. 2.4, window-mounted units are prohibited. 2.5, sleeves must be painted to match the color of the wall. 2.6, above-grade installation of heat pumps require condensation drain line connection to an approved discharge location. Mutual member assumes all responsibilities for any damage that may occur from condensate lines. 2.7, in the absence of an approved alternate heat source, removal of the AC/-HP unit and sleeve is prohibited. 2.8, removal of sleeves and stucco walls require that the patch must be made in accordance with standard construction practices to maintain the waterproof integrity of the wall. The texture and color must match the existing wall. 2.9, removal of sleeves and walls with wood siding must be made in accordance with standard construction practices to maintain the waterproof integrity of the wall. The entire section of the wood siding under a window from trim to trim must be replaced, and the texture and color must match the existing wood siding. 2.10, Upon the installation of a central heating and air system, the AC-H/P unit and sleeves shall be removed. 3.0, applications, central and ductless units. 3.1, the location of condensers must be approved by the alterations divisions prior to permit issuance. Consideration will be given to the affected or adjoining units. Mutual member is required to submit signed neighbor awareness forms as deemed needed by the alterations division. 3.2, the size of condensers must not exceed 48 inches high, 37 inches wide, or 36 inches deep. 3.3, only one outdoor condensing unit per manor is permitted. 3.4, all landscape and irrigation revisions to accommodate the location of a condenser must be made by the mutual at the mutual member's expense. Members shall submit a landscape request form with a copy of the site and floor plan with complete dimensions. 3.5, condensation drain lines must be routed to an approved location. 3.6, roof-mounted condensers are prohibited. 3.7, condensers must be installed at ground level and mounted on an approved concrete or plastic pad and must be located within 24 inches of the building wall and maintain a 36-inch clearance from bedroom windows, other equipment, utility boxes, vents, and walkways. 3.8, all exterior wiring, condensate, and coolant lines must be encased in a single square sheet metal or vinyl chase painted to match the color of the wall. 3.9, the metal chaseway must be of the two-piece type. Chaseways must be made rodent-proof by using wire mesh at the bottom of the chaseways. 3.10, the length of the runs must be kept to a minimum and be as unobtrusive as possible. 3.11, cutting of a cornice molding to accommodate a chaseway shall be performed by removing the affected section of the molding, cutting the metal flashing at both ends, applying sealant under the metal flashing, bending the metal flashing to be flush with the wall, and fastening the metal flashing in place using screws. Sealant must be applied as needed, and the cut ends of the cornice molding shall be sealed. 3.12, watertight seals must be provided around all penetrations. 3.13, cutting or altering roof trusses for the installation of air handlers in attic spaces is strictly prohibited. 3.14, when air handlers are installed in water heater closets, sufficient space must be provided above and around the water heater for repair and replacement of the water heater. 3.15, electrical conduit and box must be painted to match the color of the wall. Resolved further that Resolution 01-14-57, adopted May 13, 2014, is hereby suspended and canceled, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written. I move this resolution.
Do I have a second? Okay. All right, it's been moved by Steve and seconded by Cash that this motion go forth to our April meeting the 30-day civil code requirement. Is there any discussion? Pat?
Yes, as a former owner of a heating and air conditioning company, the one thing I noticed that is not included in this that I feel is very important, there's no mention of noise. And yet I've been observing recently the various condensers, and there's a Mitsubishi condenser, and it doesn't make any noise. I mean, it's virtually soundproof. And one thing we don't want to get are noisy condensers, but we don't have any mention of that here.
Okay, thank you. Any other, Steve?
Maybe Kurt can speak to this, but I believe that there is code that discusses the maximum decibel level for the condensers. So it doesn't need to be addressed in our resolution, but.
Yeah, I believe code is 96 decibels, and I don't think anyone even makes one that's that loud anymore. They're all getting quieter and quieter.
As in, not even noisy. That Mitsubishi is fantastic.
Yes, and that's why we have the 3.1, that we run it by the neighbors so they all know that what's coming.
Thank you.
Cash?
I have a little problem with, I don't understand number 2.10. Are we talking about removing the heat coils as well in the ceiling or floor or what?
Steve?
If you have an existing in-the-wall air conditioning heat pump, if you've put in an application to install central heating and an air handler, then you must remove the existing unit and the sleeve and restore the wall to stucco or wood
Everything.
as defined therein.
Okay. But I understand our ceilings do have asbestos, so we need to go through all that provision to remove the asbestos? And
Code
that
is code, permits are permits.
Okay.
Yeah, that all goes through the permit process. All right, I have a motion by Steve, seconded by Cash.
Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry, Reza?
I have a question on 2.4. This window mounted units are not prohibited. This only applies to the new installation, right? Because on older ones, we have window mounted units. Do we have to take those out or not?
No, they've never been permitted to have a unit in a window. If there's one, it's against code and will probably have to be
What?
looked at.
No, we have window mounted units in my unit that I bought.
Well,
This is mounted on the window. We don't use it now because of it, but do we have to take it out?
yes.
They are mounted underneath the window.
I'm sorry?
The ones
Mounted
we
underneath?
allow are mounted underneath the window, 12 inches above the ground. But we have none inside a window itself that I'm aware of.
I have one, I haven't measured how many inches it's above or below, but,
But it's not in the window itself.
no, it's a cutout. It's-
Right,
Yeah,
okay,
those
all
are
right,
okay.
that's fine. What this says is you can't have one in a window.
The type is called window mounted,
Wow.
you know, this type. But anyway, it's not mounted on the windows.
Okay.
In a cutout.
Andre?
Recently, it had been brought to my attention, sometimes we have, good intentioned new resolutions, but we causing residents difficulties because they are already in the process of making application. And they've applied, at that time was the old resolution. And when they constructed, trying to get approval, now it's a new resolution. And as a result, they got rejected. Do we have any standard procedure as far as when this applies only after, when they apply, new applications, not to the old applications?
Please note the effective date is April 10th, so anything that was applied for before then would not be covered by this resolution.
Okay, so that, okay. So
The effective date is the date that any resolution goes into effect.
So any of the resolution only apply for new applications, and,
Right.
But not old applications?
But you bring up a good point. It probably should not be April 10th. It should be whatever our May meeting number, when we actually approve it,
Okay.
as the effective date on any of these. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Cheryl, will you make those changes? Yes, Reza?
On 3.5, condensation drain must be routed to an approved location. Who decides approved location? Is it
The
alteration?
alterations department.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Cheryl?
We have a request to speak from
Okay.
Maxine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was for, go ahead. Maxine? It was C. I don't have a D.
Remembering back years ago when I was on the board, our biggest complaints, Don will remember this too, about air conditioning, which was just beginning to be widely installed. There weren't too many up before 2007 that had been installed. And the biggest complaint we were getting all that year was noise level. noise level bothering the neighbors. And I'm very interested in what Pat English said about the Mitsubishi, did I understand correctly, is nearly silent?
Yes.
And with her experience, you see, when she said that she was in the business of heating and air conditioning, I'm really listening to that. If there are others, could we ask staff to look into it and find, and maybe have a recommended list when people come in and say, here are the ones that probably won't cause complaints from the neighbors. Maybe you'd like to have this list, however we could handle it. But I think that would be very useful and very important for everyone applying for a permit to install an air conditioner to get that information. I sure would have wanted it. So I appreciate that, Pat. Thank all of you for tackling this.
Great, thank you, Maxine. Yes, Janie?
Maxine, it's just like Kurt said, and I just installed a new unit. Also, my condenser is very quiet. And the ones you're talking about, the Mitsubishi, those are split ones that are inside. They go up on the wall on top and all in the room. Are there outside ones too, Pat? I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't know that. But, yeah, the new ones are very quiet.
Cash?
Yeah, I think staff is busy enough to start looking at what companies make noiseless machines. Most of the air conditioners now are less noise, so we don't need to ask staff to get a report done. Maxine, I hate to disagree with you. Thank you.
All right. It has been moved by Steve and seconded by Cash that this resolution on revising the standard for air conditioning move forward to our May meeting. All those in favor? Okay. Andre?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay. Janie?
I just want to make a comment to Kurt and his staff, and also to our committee and our advisors. As you can see, we are really, really working hard, and we're making easy changes. So everything is standardized for our members, for our staff, and also for our contractors. And I want to personally say thank you, Kurt.
Thank you. I think we all appreciate what staff is doing here. And I'd like to reiterate that all of these things that we are doing are trying to make it, number one, simpler, and number two, less expensive for our residents who want to do alterations. The more that we can put into a standard that can be handled at the alteration desk by staff means you don't have to go through the variance process, which is time-consuming, which costs money, and it just gets things done faster and easier. So we're trying really hard to bring the alterations policy up to what we need to have it today. And I reiterate that these are all on 30-day member comments, so any of our interested members out there who would like to comment, you can read the full one on our website or get a copy here at the Community Hall, and we would love to hear your input in the next 30 days before we vote on this. All right, the last one, 13E, does not require 30 days. And would you read 13E, please?
I do have one question before I read this. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the date shown here is March 20th, 2018. Is that incorrect? Should
I
that
think
be?
it probably is in 2014.
No, 18. March 20, 2018. Third paragraph.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Should that not be today? April 10?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, she puts in when we had the first reading, but it does.
Oh, is
It is
this-
effective today. You're right. Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 01-18-XX. Interior inspection of vacant units. Whereas vacant units present a number of concerns to United Mutual and its residents, and those concerns increase the longer the unit is vacant. It is to the benefit of United and its residents to inspect the condition of units which have been vacant for 6 months or more. And Whereas based on corporate counsel's opinion and the mutual's governing documents, the mutual has the right to inspect units at any time in the event of an emergency and the right to enter units at a reasonable hour in non-emergency situations for the purpose of performing maintenance. Now therefore be it resolved April 10th, 2018, that the Board of Directors hereby introduces the vacant unit inspection policy. Resolved further that except in the case of an emergency inspection, the mutual will provide a minimum of 15 days' notice of inspection to the owner of record of each vacant unit. Resolved further, the mutual will conduct non-emergency inspections after said notice unless the owner submits a letter of objection. Resolved further, if the owner of record objects or specifically denies entry, the matter will be referred to the board for member disciplinary action. Resolved further, non-emergency inspections will be conducted with security personnel in attendance to document and ensure that there is no adverse impact upon the unit interior by the mutual's inspection. Resolved further, the inspector will identify and note conditions within the units and facilitate remediation of adverse functional conditions identified if necessary to protect against damage to mutual property, common area damage, or nuisance to neighboring residents. Resolved further, that necessary emergency repairs that are required to prevent damage to mutual property that are the responsibility of the member will be carried out and charged to the owner of record. Resolved further, that necessary emergency repairs that are the responsibility of the mutual will be carried out at mutual cost. Resolved further, that Resolution 03-14-2, adopted March 20th, 2014, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I so move this resolution.
Do I have a second? Gary? All right, this resolution, in the end, says that it needs 30-day initial notification, et cetera, and we have been informed that it does not, and therefore that should be taken off the resolution, the April initial notification, and this will go directly to our May, this will be voted on directly at this meeting. Cash?
I do have a couple of issues with this, with the staff's report. On the page 2 of the report, page 2 of 6, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph down, it says the current policy does not indicate any charges for inspection and administrative fees. Since the proposed inspection policy does carry administrative costs, staff proposes a fee of $50. We have a couple of units that have been closed for years and never been inspected because we couldn't even locate the owner. Why should we penalize a member with a vacant unit in the process that they're working to get some deceased heir transferred to the heir? A fee of $50, it doesn't make sense. Also, my problem with this is the financial analysis. The staff is requesting to add one more person as a financial analyst under her position will be added in the alterations division to perform the coordination and administrative. So we are talking about funds involved here, which are not mentioned in this resolution.
That's correct.
Period. And this was never brought to us to discuss or see the value or effectiveness of this policy and how much it can be enforced. We know the facts that sometimes it has not been, we haven't been able to enforce it. So
That's correct,
making
and that's
this
why
into-
we're putting in this policy,
But
so
then
that
we should
hopefully we
mention
can.
that the owners will be charged.
Yes. It is, it's
The
mentioned.
resolution, it's just resolving things, but it doesn't mention that there will be a charge transfer back to the owners. And it doesn't mention about the fact that, at times, it's impossible to take care of this.
Well, they have 6 months.
What?
The resolution says that they have 6 months. If it's empty for more than 6 months,
Yeah,
and 6 months should be plenty of time to do that. If not, they can ask for a variance if there's some sort of court problem in transferring ownership or whatever. But we're trying to get rid of, as you mentioned, we have units in this village, in co-ops, that have been vacant for 10 years.
right.
No one has lived there. The assessment through Easy Pay and the bank keeps getting paid. We're not sure by what funds, whatever. But if the payments, the assessments were stopped, that would be a red flag for us to say, oops, something's wrong here. As it is, we had to wait for residents in that building to notify us, there's nobody living here. There hasn't been anybody living here. So this is an unusual case, but we have had a number of those, so that's why we need this inspection process. Manny?
Thank you. I had the same questions and concerns that Cash did. And I think before we can decide whether or not we need to add additional staff or we need to charge a resident for inspections, I'd like to know how many vacant units we currently have. I'd also like to know how many we've had in the last year. This is information that would be good input in order to make some decisions about adding staff, or should we charge the resident for these inspections and so on. So I think we need that data before we can pass this resolution. Thank you.
All right, well, first of all, as you'll notice in the resolution, it does not mention the extra staff member. That's only in the staff report or recommendation, and that would go forward to us during budget time to decide in our scope, in our negotiations with them that was needed. And as for the administrative fee, that would have to come through the Finance Committee, so it is not part of this resolution. Staff report and resolution are different things. Yes, Steve?
I'd just like to say that sitting in executive hearings and listening to extensive damage that is done to surrounding residents' manors because manors are vacant. I mean, you can talk in the numbers of tens of thousands of dollars of damages. And when you have a situation where you have a decedent and there's no estate, as we have seen, this ends up being a bill that the mutual pays for because there's no one to go chase the money for. So again, this is one of the things that we asked staff to bring back to us because we saw the many significant difficulties and occurrences of damages that had happened previously, and whether it's one a year or 100 a year is incidental to trying to control costs and not sustain damages. So that's why staff was asked to bring this forward.
I might also mention that in case of an emergency, some sort of infrastructure, water leaks, all of those kinds of things, we do have a right, since we own the property, to go in. We hope, and I encourage everybody out there, please make sure that you have a key on file with security for these emergency situations. If you are on vacation and there's a flood, we need to be able to get into your unit. If we have to break the door down, that's going to be a cost, and it really shouldn't be there. So we need that key. Remember, the mutual owns the unit. You have a right to occupy, but you need to give us the ability to maintain those units and this is one of the ways that we can do it. It's very difficult. There are a number of different things besides what we've talked about of a member who dies and it's not notified to there. We also have found that this is a way that heirs have tried to circumvent our rules by continuing to pay the assessment, even though they are not eligible financially or age-wise to live in the village. So by just paying the assessment and we're not knowing that somebody died or moved to a nursing home and the unit is vacant, it's very difficult for us to enforce the rules. We try, but with 6,432 units, we cannot know everything that goes on in every unit. And that's where, again, why we ask all of our residents out there, you are our eyes and ears. If something's not right in your building, please let us know so that we can inspect it, we can find out what's going on. This is a very general one, but basically it just gives us important ability to take care of our manners. Pat?
Yes, I'm not in favor, of course, of adding new staff. On the other hand, I'm certainly not in favor of having vacant units either. We need to know which are the vacant units, and it's going to cost us money one way or the other to find out which are the vacant units. I'm going to vote in favor of this because we have to start somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Juanita.
And of course, in this, it does not mention the extra staff member. That was in a staff report, and that will go forward when we work with the units on budget. Arisa?
I support Manny's suggestion. We need to have some data of how many units we're talking about. You see, the thing is that it may be one case inside. We don't want to pass resolution after resolution for one case.
Raisa, we never know at any given time how many units there are.
Yeah, but
Because we don't
statistic
know, just like we
right now.
don't know we're there. So we're saying you can't have 6 months. If it's vacant, if neighbors tell us nobody's been there, then we can do it. So, Gary?
In answering that, my building alone, the next door to me was vacant for, and I don't even know how long before I moved in, but it was 3.5 years when I moved in, never saw a single person. We had an ant infiltration, and I didn't know whether there may have been food left next door or whatever, and at that point, nobody could do anything about it. And I'm in favor of this. I think we need to have a procedure to go in and see what's going on in these units that are vacated.
Cash?
One quick question here. The second whereas already defines that mutual has the right to inspect unit at any time in the event of an emergency and the right to enter the unit at a reasonable hour in non-emergency situation.
Correct.
If that is so, why do we need another resolution? We already have it.
We already have a resolution that was passed in 2014. This just clarifies it a little bit and brings it up to date. Andre, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing that Cash is thinking. We don't need to have two resolutions that stating the same thing or one on top of each other. And that will cause confusion if in the future we change
If you'll
it.
notice the last result further, that resolution is hereby superseded and canceled.
But the second way is council's opinion that the government has the right to inspect units. So we don't, so we are replacing the previous one? Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Now, the question I have is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? I heard people talk about there could be food left in there for several years, and
That's
it's causing
correct.
problems. There
We have
could be
rodents,
water
we have
leak.
bugs.
Yes, those are the emergency situations that we can go in there. Okay, there is no need to have a resolution for that. Okay. The second thing is, you mentioned that, my question, I have the first sentence here, vacant units present a number of concerns, and I don't know what are the concerns. You mentioned about get rid of underaged air, okay, and dealing with, and we question about, people ask about statistics, we don't have any statistics, we don't know. So we don't even know what the problem is, how big the problem is. If it's a big problem, I'm sure you're gonna get all the support. If it's non-issue, we are spending time on these non-issues. So how big the problem is? If it's out of 6,000 units, we have 600 units like that. That is a big problem. But if it's only 10, 15 units, it may not be that big a problem, and we have already established procedures that Mutual has the right to inspect units at any time, and emergency and non-emergency. Also, there are situations that I know that are immigrants. They have other countries they can go to, they have friends, they have families over there, so they go back there, and they may leave their unit here a couple years vacant. They don't come here, they come here every once a year. So it's not that they are not. So I'm questioning how do you define a vacant unit? Okay, vacant unit, you mean the owner already deceased. How do you know that? So there needs to be some clarification on these concerns and the vacancy in there. Otherwise, this is a bothering to the residents. They are having fun, and suddenly they receive a letter, they have to fly over back to United States and explain this one. Otherwise, you start taking actions on those units.
Andre,
That's
there's
gonna be a
nothing in
problem.
this resolution that says they have to fly back. It says they get a 15-day notification if it's been empty more than 6 months, and all they have to do is reply and tell security, I'm out of the country, I'm still paying my payments, this is still my unit, and that's all there is.
So letter communication is,
Yes.
written communication is,
Yeah, when they receive the 15-day notice.
then you are not achieving anything because you're not getting, underage the air can send a letter and you just say, okay.
Andre, why can't they, as a courtesy, just go into property services and let them know they're going to be gone for a period of time? And at the same time, with the way our drains are and all, you need to run water through those drains every once in a while so they don't break. They sit and they get brittle. They need water run in those drains.
How often do you need to do that? Because I know people are going snowbirds that they stay here only 6 months.
That's why we put the 6-month limit on it. All right, Andre, I understand that you particularly want statistics, numbers, and all of that. Staff report tells you what the issues are. We do not take the time to give you the specific numbers. If you want those yourself, we'll be glad to find them for you. But the staff report and the resolution are general. This is a problem, and this is how the procedure, yes, we have the right to do it, but that's just the right. What we need to know is what is the procedure of how we're going to do it, and that's what this resolution is about. Gary?
In answer to Andre also, in my just 8 units, I have 2 units that have been vacant for more than a year. I can't imagine that it's all that different throughout the whole community. That it's just my building.
So, yeah.
All right, I will call for the vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Cheryl?
We have 2 requests to speak.
Okay, very good. First one?
Maxine McIntosh.
Maxine McIntosh, 68C. I'm in favor of this resolution. I think it really clarifies a lot. Looking back at what was passed, in the past, when a resolution is first passed by a board and then is not tweaked for 5 or 10 years, things change, and you do need to update them. I think this is good. I have only one question, and that's the $50 fine, a $50 fee to be charged to the shareholder for each inspection. Complaint I'm hearing more and more is not just our board, but GRF, that it seems like the boards are trying to find ways to stick extra fees on people individually. And when we all moved here, we all knew this was going to be a situation where we live with a shared cost concept. And every one of us pays a shared cost of the operation of security, people who would be going in to inspect, and the administration end of it, people doing the paperwork. So everyone is already paying a small share of that every single month. And I really feel that if there's additional expense here, that should be absorbed by our assessments, not picking out the people individually and saying, okay, the ones that need this inspection will pay $50 more. We agreed to a shared cost concept. And I had a neighbor who was gone for 5 years in my building. She was smart. She had a neighbor go in and turn on the water and flush the toilets about every 3 months. And of course, continuing to pay her assessments. But she'd done a beautiful remodel, so she wanted to come back to the same home. She didn't want to have to buy another one. So thank you very much for tackling this. I hope you eliminate the $50 charge.
Maxine, reread the resolution. It is not in there. There is no $50 charge, and there is no extra employee. That was in a suggestion in a staff report.
You're right.
It is
I'm
not
sorry.
reflected in the
Yeah,
resolution.
I saw it in the report here.
Right.
On white. I should have looked on pink. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, Mary Stone?
Mary Stone, 356C. I was wondering when the corporate counsel reviewed this issue, did they by any chance read the resolution that was previously on the books? Because first of all, the resolution was not March 20th, 2014. It was November the 14th, 2008. And in this particular resolution, we actually estimated a cost to be charged in the unbudgeted operating expenditures to have this inspection done annually, so that anything that was vacant for more than 6 months, that there was an annual inspection that was to be done, and it was supposed to be charged to the operating budget from that time forward. Now, I don't know whether that inspection has in fact ever been done, because I am aware of a unit that has been vacant for at least 10 years, because I know the woman who vacated it. And so there's a serious problem in that particular unit. The shades have never been changed in more than 10 years. And the other item is in your resolution, you are talking about the owner of record. And if you look at the previous resolution, it talks about the member of record, or it should be the shareholder of record.
Should be the shareholder.
So, we're trying to update our documents. If we're going to be updating them, let's update them properly, but let's also consider what is the difference between the previous policy and this one, and I think that should be specifically noted. And I think the thing that is left out of the new proposed policy is how you're going to pay for it, and I think that was in the old policy that obviously hasn't been complied with.
Thank you, Mary, but I would bring to your attention that this supersedes the policy from March 2014, which superseded the policy from November 2008.
But we only have 2008 in the...
Well, there is 2014. Sorry, it didn't get in. It didn't get in. I apologize, but there is another one, and that's what there. So if the directors feel that that's pertinent information and they want to move this forward to our May meeting when they can have the 2014 policy, we'd be happy to entertain motion to that effect.
Move this to next month.
All right, well, we need to do this, okay. First, we need to vote on the original motion to approve this, made by Steve and seconded by Gary. All those in favor? 4? 5. All right, and it does not,
doesn't move until it's breaking a tie.
that's not required. That's the usual, but the chair can vote at any time on any measure. Anyway, this does not pass, and so we will take Andre's motion.
It passes. We only have 9 members today.
Oh, that's right, Maggie's not here. We have 10, so it's a tie, but my vote was part of the tie, so it doesn't pass if it's a tie, and I can't break the tie. So now we will look at the motion that was made by Andre and seconded by Manuel to postpone this to our May meeting. All those in favor? 4, 5. All those opposed? Okay, 5 to 4, it passes. And we will bring this forward to our May meeting. And in the meantime, we will get a copy of the other resolution and make sure that you have that information. Okay, let's go to.
May I ask a question about the resolution, the decision? Is it the intention that during this period we can request more information and clarify, and so we can next meeting we will have better information to present to the
If that
residents?
information is available, yes, you may.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we will go to item 14 on our agenda, and that's committee reports. And we will start with the report of our Finance Committee from Director Morrison, our treasurer.
Okay, slide 1.
Yep, there it is.
Okay, total revenue for United through February 28, 2018 was $6,739,000.
Microphone.
I'm sorry. Total revenue for United through February 28, 2018 was $6,739,000 compared to the expenses of $5,785,000, resulting in net revenue of $954,000. Slide 2. Through February, United Mutual was better than budget by $806,000, primarily due to the timing of invoices, budget distribution that differs from scheduled work for moisture intrusion. Funding for this program is on a contingent basis, and to date, work has not been required. Waistline remediation, which work is in progress. Building structure replacement, funding for this program is on a contingent basis, and to date, work has not been required. And roof repairs, where work is in progress. Slide 3, please. This pie chart shows non-assessment revenues received to date of $215,000 by category, starting with our largest revenue-generating category, interest income, followed by chargeable services, laundry revenue, and resale processing fees revenues. Slide 4, please. On this pie chart, we see expenses to date of $5,784,000, showing our largest categories of expense are for compensation and property taxes, followed by utilities and materials. Slide 5, please. The reserve balances on February 28, 2018 were $23.3 million. Year-to-date contributions and interest to reserves were $2,050,000, and year-to-date expenditures $1,150,000. Our resales, and this is as of March, to date, were down 27 from the previous year, with a sales volume decrease of $3,831,390. However, average resale price was up $276,315 versus $239,622. This is an increase of $32,532. There are, according to MLS, we have a low supply of sale or inventory of 180 units that are for sale,
Total village.
total village. So I can't tell you what exactly the percentage is just for United. Delinquencies are down $9,000 from the previous month. And delinquencies for chargeable services are down $10,000 from the previous month. So we're in good shape.
Thank you
That's
very
it.
much. All right, the second report will be from the Architectural Control and Standards Committee. Director Durrell.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say that Kurt Weinman reported the progress has begun to convert the plumbing drawings into PDF files, which will be very helpful to our contractors. Once completed, they'll be posted on our website. And members and contractors and anyone concerned can go onto the Laguna Woods Village website and find all the information for guidelines needed for permits, alteration, variance requests, floor plans, approved standard alterations, and all necessary paperwork necessary for alterations and variance. And this is very, very helpful. We also had the contractors forum last Thursday. It was great success, and the contractors really appreciated that we have most of all our information through alterations and staff on our website. The next meeting of our committee will be April 19th at 9:30 a.m. in the Sycamore Room. That concludes my report.
All right, in Director Blackwell's absence, I will give the report from the Communications Committee. The new Breeze is out. She has, before she left on vacation, got all the information in for the next Breeze to come out. She is very diligent in making sure that United is represented in that. However, I would like to, on her behalf, say, are there any members out there who would like an article with some information on it? Please get in touch with Maggie, and she will, from either a staff member or from a board member, have an article that we put in there. So if there's a question that you need answered, maybe you want it in our Q&A or whatever, please feel free to get in touch with Maggie Blackwell, who is our Communications Committee Chair. The next one is the report of the Executive Hearings Committee. The executive hearings were held on March 22nd, and we had 4 damage reimbursement hearings. 2 were postponed at the request of the resident to April. We're going to have a full docket in April. We had 1 meet and confer, and again, that was postponed at the request of the member, and that will be handled in April. Disciplinary hearings, we had 10 disciplinary hearings. 3 were referred to legal counsel, and 2 were dismissed because they were for non-payment, which then was paid before our meeting. So we had 5 that were actually discipline was put on there. So the next meeting of our disciplinary committee is coming up on the 26th, and that is a closed meeting. The next one is the Governing Documents Review Committee, and they meet every month on the 4th Monday of the month. I know Brad said we tried, or Dick said we tried to make them every other month. Doesn't work. Governing Docs, we not only meet once a month, we have a task force reviewing different things that often meets weekly. The discussion and consideration items were the proposed stock certificate. And we have been working with our attorney to revise the membership stock certificate that everybody gets, because right now it just says membership, and you need to know, we tell everybody, this is a stock certificate. And we try to emphasize how important it is that they take care of that. There's a lost instrument bond if when you go to resell or you try to leave it to heirs or it's in your trust and you don't have it, You spend thousands of dollars replacing it, so it needs to be kept. So it is a stock certificate which entitles you to membership if you qualify. And it specifically says on there that inheriting ownership of the enclosed stock certificate does not entitle the holder to membership. They have to qualify for membership, both age-wise and financially. We also continued the update of the resale documents, and that's what the task force is also doing. And then we bring that back every time to our meeting with suggestions. We work with staff on that to see how can we make sure that they are updated and current to laws, rules, and the way we're doing business these days. Future agenda items for our next meeting on April 23rd is a resolution for corporate members meeting. Those of you who watched or were at the meeting yesterday, I mentioned that we are going to call a corporate members meeting later this month to do two things. Number one, to clarify the language in the bylaw as to when a director can be automatically dismissed. And secondly, there is a bylaw that has not been enforced forever, that has come to the attention of our Governing Docs Committee. There is a bylaw that says non-members may not use GRF facilities. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to see if we need to take that back, any decisions that can be made on that if we want to change it. On the first issue, we will present, the United Board will present to the corporate members a suggested clarification, and we will also bring this concern on the other bylaw to the corporate members meeting. And I'm sorry I don't have a date on that, but it will be before the end of the month. Okay, so that takes care of those two. And the next one is the Landscape Committee. Oops, me again. Director Blackwell. Again, I said at the very beginning, and I'll reiterate it here for those that are left, at the Landscape Committee meeting that's coming up on April 25th, 1:30, here in the boardroom, we will be having the presentation on Aliso Creek, and we invite the Creek people, all of those who are interested, et cetera, or who have gotten misinformation from the Globe article on what is being done with Aliso Creek way further downstream in Wood Canyon. So it's a nice illustration of what's happening there. All right, the next is the Maintenance Construction Committee. Director Tibbetts.
We didn't have a meeting, however, I would like to bring you up to date on a couple of items. The handyman services, the planning is going well. Hopefully, we will start it next month. And the cost would be $200 a year, which would give you 3 visits a month. It's a good deal. The Shepherd Crooks, we talked about that last time. We will be discussing it again to determine where exactly we want to place them. It's going to be an expensive program, but it's certainly well worth it. We want to get rid of all of the barbed wire on our block walls. And then we had a report. Steve, maybe you have that one we got from Ernesto, or I can report on the solar system.
Oh, yeah, actually,
I thought you might want to. It's
I believe I have.
If not, I can read it.
No, I don't have it.
Okay. As you know, we've had our solar system lighting in place now since
April, a year ago.
about a year ago,
April
yeah.
6th.
And we got a report from the quarterly solar production company that from Phoenix. They are the ones that we work with who monitors our solar system program. And so far we are 11.2 0.25% above what we were going to save. So we're really, really doing well. And that's a huge savings. It goes into the grid, and we sell it. So we're doing okay. Next meeting will be April 25th at 9 o'clock.
I'd like to make a comment that is also M&C related. Here in United, last week, we had a power outage that affected many of our units in Gate 5, between ours are Gate 5, it was also Gate 6. There were over 2,000 units that were affected on 2 different days, and one was in the middle of the night. We depend on SCE to keep us informed of what's going on. Often they don't. It's a real problem for resident services when everybody calls in, my power's out, my power's out, my power's out. And we are working to address that by putting, when you call in an initial thing, if you are calling about a power outage, we have contacted SCE, and this is when they say it would be back on, so that you don't have to sit and wait on the telephone to talk to somebody in resident services. We also have been in communication with the state PUC, SP, Public Utilities there, because we don't feel that we are getting the service from SCE that we would like. They are in charge of all of the transformers, which are 50 years old, and they keep, I mean, we have outages, and we'd like to see more cooperation of what we can do for that. So I just wanted to let all of you know that we're aware of those problems. We are actively pursuing them with staff, and even going to state committees on those. So I'm especially concerned, as a good neighbor building captain, with people in my area who are on some sort of electronic medical, a CPAP machine that they wear at night, an oxygen machine that they need. When the power goes out at 2:30 in the morning, if they do not have backup, and we encourage everybody with medical equipment like that to have a backup, they might not wake up in the morning. So it's really important that we know that can happen in the middle of the night. It was out 2:30 to 7:30. So that's one of the other things that we're looking at. We've also been addressing this in disaster recovery. Okay, the Resident Advisory Committee, Director Tibbetts again.
Okay, the Resident Advisory Committee meets monthly, and if you cannot get an answer that you want from resident relations across the hall, you are invited to this meeting. Some of the things that we talked about last month, well, I'll give you 3 of them. Someone reported an illegal caretaker. Second person was a broken gutter that he was unhappy because he couldn't get it fixed. We took care of that one. And then some lady reported that her tree was infested with rats. So we took care of that. I'm not sure why that wasn't taken care of earlier, but she came to us and we took care of it.
Okay. So again, Resident Advisory is set up as a forum for residents to come in and talk to board members if there's something that they feel has not been taken care of, or taken care of in a timely manner, or something that they have seen that they think need to be brought to our attention. As you know, in board members, we ask for member comments, but you have a 3-minute limit. In Resident Advisory, you do not have a 3-minute limit, and you can bring in pictures, and you can bring in other neighbors and residents and all, and we can't solve all the problems, but we can listen and we can direct you, and we can go to staff that should be handling that and see what we can do for you. So I encourage you to use that venue. All right, number 15.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Cash?
I have one quick question to Director Morrison on page 2 of 14A, 2 of 7 of 14A. If we can go back there, I think, at the end. If you look at moving average, we are showing less sales this year than last year, which then justifies the next line, showing less income or less sales volume in dollars this year than last year. But then if you go to average sale price, we see different numbers, upside down. I was kind of wondering if this needs a little more scrutiny, because.
It's a seller's market. There is
No,
so
wait a
low
minute.
inventory
These
that they're
numbers don't
asking.
jive.
And realtors tell us they have 2 and 3 offers on a unit, so the
Excuse me,
sales
what-
price goes up.
Excuse me. The first 2 columns indicate less volume in dollars as well as less volume in sales. But the last column indicates increase in price.
Right, but if you have less volume, even if the price is increased, you're going to have a less volume in sales.
So that,
Not unit, is unit price or total price? Average sales price.
Average sales price.
Average sales price has gone up in the village because we
And
have.
it is an average because we have fairly low prices and we
Yeah.
have very high prices, and we take an average.
that is for the first 3 months in this event, you're saying?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
If you want numbers from last year, go back to your resale
I'm sorry,
price
I take
from
my question
December.
back.
We do it cumulative on a yearly basis. All right, we're going to 15 now. All of our directors serve on at one or more GRF committee. GRF committees are made up of 3 GRF members, 2 members from United, 2 members from Third, and 1 from the Towers. So it's important, I feel, that you know what's going on in those committees. And again, if you have input that you would like to put into that, you can contact those of us who serve on those committees, and we can represent you and United at those various meetings. First one is the Finance Committee. Director Morrison.
I neglected to state some of the things I wanted to talk about in our Finance Committee meeting. So I'm going to use this time, because I don't have any GRF, because we didn't have a meeting. The committee discussed budgeting a cost of living increase each year per line item that would help keep assessments level rather than having big increases in a year in which we've gone maybe 5 years with not increasing. The committee discussed a breakdown of categories within the financial statements so that the reader can make educated decisions based on data. For example, we know there are water intrusion problems. However, we cannot tell whether the problem is because of water supply problems with toilet valves, hot water heaters, or sinks, or whether they're waistline backups, or a combination of the two. So we're splitting these items out so that we can get a better idea of where we need to spend the money and where to budget. United experienced a $1.5 million in expense due to water intrusion in 2017. Over a 10-year period, we're talking $12 million in expenses that could have been used to reline water supply and waste lines. Because PCM did not expend the monies to take care of the plumbing that has outlived its life, we're now paying a price. We have not in many instances replaced water intake valves on the toilets or the hot water heaters, et cetera, which I was not aware of either until recently. So people that maybe think they're going away, I had one lady tell me that she thought she was turning her toilet off because she was going to be gone for 3 months, which loosened it, and it had a leak. So when she came home, her whole house was flooded. So these are the kinds of things we need to address. We are experiencing pinhole leaks in pipes within the walls, as well as waistline backups causing damage to the interior of the units. When this happens, the occupant is forced to move from the unit until the dry down is accomplished and repairs are made, and this can be months. This is an emotional inconvenience as well as an expense, not only to the association, but to the homeowner. The homeowner is forced to pay the deductible on their insurance, as well as facing increased insurance costs due to claims. In order to accomplish this, we need to speed up the relining of supply lines and also the remediation of waste lines, as well as replacing valves in the toilets, hot water heaters, and the sinks. This is not going to be inexpensive. We'll be discussing this during budget preparation. It's not going to be an inexpensive venture. We all need to come together, decide how we want to pay for this, whether it's through monthly assessments, supplemental assessments, or a bank loan. But I think the fact that we're spending $1.5 million in cleanups, and which is costing United a lot of money, it tells me that we need to do something to remediate the problem. I also want to welcome 2 new advisors to the Finance Committee, Alan Dickinson and Steve Champion, and both these men have a wealth of knowledge to provide, are highly credentialed. Look forward to their input. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Report of the Community Activities Committee, Director Durrell.
We did not have a meeting, and our next meeting, I'm going to keep this short, is going to be May 10th at 2 p.m. in the boardroom.
I will add to that the large part of that meeting was discussing bluebirds. 2.5 hours on bluebirds. So that was only GRF, and any decisions that were made at that meeting were only GRF. We will be talking about the bluebird houses at our landscape committee on the 25th. We addressed this 2 years ago and made decisions, and since it's in the forefront now, we want to bring everybody's attention to what those decisions were. All right, Maintenance and Construction, Director Tibbetts.
I'll add a little to what Brad said this morning. Clubhouse 1, a scope of work has been developed. It's going out for bid, and it will be submitted for contract in August. And then the Performing Arts Center, Brad also mentioned that, so I won't add anything to it. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Next is the report of the Media Communication Committee, and again, Director Blackwell is not here. So I will let you know that some of the things that were discussed at that meeting were, again, the analog TV phase out, the TiVo update, and going back to analog TV, I get a lot of people who say, well, what do I do with my old one? It's too big for me to do anything with. If you will call Resident Services, they will make an appointment to come and pick that up at your residence, because some of these analog TVs are very big and very heavy. So call Resident Services and they will help you in getting rid of that once you go digital. The TiVo update, and Brad covered that a little bit, and we also had some discussion on the docent tours. The docent tours are more and more popular. They run Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, and the third Saturday morning of every month. We have full bus, anywhere from 20 to 25 people. Some are prospective residents, some are new residents, some are people who've lived here for a while but are not familiar with all of the village. The docent tour goes around and shows everybody, every clubhouse, every swimming pool, every facility that we have, so that they can easily find it, with a little bit of a thing about it, also the History Center and the Village Library. So we want to have more consistency in that, and they're looking at how they can develop talking points for the docents and a specific route for the bus drivers. The next meeting will be April 16th at 1:30 in the boardroom. The Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Akrakar.
Thank you, Madam President. Transportation has introduced a Spirit of Independence, a smaller bus to the fleet. The bus does not require commercial driver license to operate, which means lesser cost. The bus has been generally well received. All our buses are ADA compliant and have the ability to accommodate wheelchairs, walkers, and power cars. The staff finds the smaller buses improve transportation efficiencies and allow easy access in and out of cul-de-sacs. One member commented that the buses are difficult to see at night, and staff is looking into possible solution as to what we can do. And staff is testing scheduling software called Ride Now, created for our special needs of Laguna Woods transportation. Regular routes are not discontinued, but there is a possibility that the Uber-type call-on-demand may soon be possible with the new software. So you can call the bus when you want it, like any Uber, and you can get the bus. Residents can always plan a ride reservations, and will soon have the option of doing so online. 2018 budget shows a net reduction of $35,431 over the last year. And next meeting will be June 6th at 1:30 p.m. in boardroom. Please attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Security and Access Committee, Director Tibbetts.
Yeah, I've got a couple of interesting items that you might be interested in. The number one complaint that security gets is from falls. And when you fall inside your manor, I had a neighbor, she crawled over to the phone and called us next door. So we called security and we couldn't get in. The door was locked. She did not have any key on file. So we broke a window and got in and helped her out. But that's the number one complaint is falls. We also have a foot patrol. I've never seen them, but I've seen their reports. The number one thing that they find are overcrowded patio decks. And we're coming down heavy on that, trying to clean them up. Then the highest concern that the foot patrol finds are non-working lights. That kind of figures. And then the number one crime report is the same that we have had since whenever, is petty theft. And in petty theft, a lot of the items have just been misplaced or found. And next meeting is April 26th at 1:30.
Thank you. The traffic hearings, Director Akar.
Thank you, Madam President. We had a total of 18 cases. 5 were excused fines or found not guilty. Primarily, most of the cases were speeding violations, 11 to 15 miles over the speed. And I would like to repeat again to all members, and not just here, but throughout the village, that please observe speed limit, because we have people that are crossing the road anywhere because it's a slower speed, and people generally tend to go over 35 miles an hour. Yep. And that happens, and it's very difficult at times to stop. So please watch and pay attention while you're driving, not just in the neighborhood, but everywhere else. Our next meeting is on April 24th at 9:30 a.m. in the Cypress Room. Please attend. Thank you.
Okay. And we also have a report of the Disaster Preparedness Task Force, and Director Morrison will give that this time. But Director Morrison and Director Akar both serve on that, but Director Akar couldn't make the last meeting.
Okay, the last task force meeting, there was a big presentation that regarded diabetics and what happens with diabetics if there is a major catastrophe. And basically just alerting us to what the needs are of a diabetic, of the insulin, or sometimes they're on they have a little thing that's attached to their belt, and if they run out, there can be problems. So it's something that we have to kind of work out as far as the task force is concerned. We also discussed the need for trained medical personnel in the village that could respond to an emergency. And also discussed with this was the fact that some of these people are still working and therefore cannot attend the CPR courses and whatsoever because of timing, and that maybe we need to have more nighttime
Or Saturday.
nighttime or Saturday schooling or events. We need building captains, and we discussed different ways that we can get people to volunteer and get the message out there that we are really short in United, and we need to get people involved. That's it. The next meeting will be April 24th at 9:30 a.m. in the Cypress Room.
Thank
Madam
you.
President, one quick
Yes.
comment. Towards that effect, we had a disaster preparedness 10-minute blurb on the TV, and we presented different things. So if you get a chance, watch it. And it's very important to have awareness of our situation on a daily basis so we can not only help ourselves, but our neighbors and our friends who live close by, because we are the first defense when in case of a disaster. So please be aware of that, and please volunteer your time and earn some brownie points with the guy in the sky also. Thank you.
Thank you. I just remind everybody that every Friday morning at 8:30, also at noon and at 5 o'clock at night, on this day on Channel 6, we have the United Update. And one of our committee chairs is on every week. Cash did it last week on the disaster preparedness. So there's a lot of good information, current information, if you watch that update on Fridays. Now we come to the fun part. Item 16. We have a vacancy, as you know. Steve Leonard resigned last month, effective tomorrow. He was kind enough to give us a month to fill his position so we would not have an empty chair in between. And we are lucky enough to have 5 candidates, which is absolutely superb. Yes, Janie?
I want to throw a hammer into this. This is not allowed, Steve Leonard.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't want to see him go, but it's his, he has good reasons why, and he's not leaving because he doesn't like us. That's what he says, yes. Okay, let's go to 16, the introduction of the candidates. And each candidate will have an opportunity to make a statement on their qualifications and why they want to be a member of our board to fill out Steve's term until next fall. So the first candidate is Diane Casey.
Good afternoon, Madam President and board members. My name is Diane Casey, and I own a unit in United, and I've been a resident for 13 years. I am a certified public accountant since 1991. I retired from my CPA practice in Dana Point in 2015. During my career, I was very busy with my clients, which were corporations, partnerships, trusts, nonprofits, and I helped my clients with accounting, financial reporting, taxes, and management projects. I assisted some clients by being on their boards, and boy, that time goes by fast. And I also, personally, I was on the Finance Commission for my church, St. Edward's in Dana Point, for 2 years. And I also was on the Homeowners Association for my board in Laguna Niguel. I just completed a 2-year commitment with international nonprofit as the treasurer and board member. And I was approached by a neighbor who asked me if I would like to apply for this open position for United. And because I have some time available, I also during my time off, I got to join some clubs and take some classes, and I had some leadership roles in the clubs. And right now, I have a leadership role in the Roberts Rules Study Club. I'm the vice president of membership, and I am a director or an officer in my Toastmasters Club, and I've been taking leadership roles in Toastmasters for 3 years, including president. So I am available, and my experience is that I graduated from Cal State Fullerton with a BA in business administration, and since 1991, I've taken 80 hours of continuing education in business and accounting every 2 years. So I am definitely interested, and I hope you vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diane. All right.
Should we ask him question individually or at the end ask him questions?
No, you can ask your question now.
Okay. Just now that you've observed how this board works for over 3 hours, what's your comment on this board operation, and what do you think, which area do you think you can improve, helping out, making this association better for the residents?
Well, I have watched board meetings for many years, and I've attended some. I think it's great. I love this board. This board is so, cohesive. So I think I could help with finance and, other reading documents and helping, take off the load. So, that's my answer.
Thank you.
Cash?
I've read through all these other candidates as well, but my question, everybody's well qualified, but I do have a question for you. Somewhere I read on your resume that you have 30 hours a month of work. Now, is that going to hinder at times? Because we put about roughly 20 hours, and I exclude our president, she puts like 80 hours a week. But on a normal basis, you'll need 15 to 20 hours a week in meetings, at preparation, at other work. Would that in any way hinder what you are already committed, 30 hours a month?
Did I put that down? Well, I have 2 clients that I do for 2 days a month, and some consulting once in a while. So I don't know where I put 30 hours. But
when it comes to United needs, would you put us behind your clients or put United first?
yeah, I could do the clients at night. I do it at home.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, wait a minute, Diane. I have one question that Director Blackwell asked me to ask of each of our candidates.
Okay.
If you are selected for this position, would you be willing to sign a director's code of conduct?
Absolutely. As part of my continuing education, I take ethics and regulatory classes, so yes, I would.
Thank you
not
very
mind at all.
much.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
That's it?
Our next candidate is Alan Dickinson.
Thank you, President Skillman. I want to try to give a very brief instead of a long introduction. My name is actually Professor Alan Dale Dickinson, but I like people to call me Alan. But you could call me Professor if you wanted to. I'm just so very grateful for an opportunity to come and present a few moments to share with you this morning. My lovely wife, Lynn, and I just love living in Laguna Woods. We want to give something back. She's involved in things. I used to have a photographic memory, and it's disappeared, so it's not photographic anymore. So please allow me to read a couple notes. A couple of things that we're involved in is I teach a class on a little book here. It's called How to Write a Novel. If any of you'd like to know how to write a novel, I can show you how. Yeah, I teach a class. It's an 8-week class. I serve on as an advisor on the excellent United Mutual Finance Committee with Gary Morrison. I serve on the GRF committee with Diane Phelps. I've donated 9 novels. I write mystery novels part-time. One of them is called A Mystery in Laguna Woods. Some of you might want to check that out. It's in the library, thanks to Juanita. I've donated 9 of those. My employment background, I'm going to skip, someone was mentioning looking at resumes, so I'm going to skip over my education. You can read that. A couple things in my career as a vice president with Bank America, just a few things of many. I was employed for 20 years at early retirement to write and do real estate. A couple things I did. I had a office on the Queen Mary. Some of you know the Queen Mary in Long Beach. The dome right next to it, which is a terminal for passengers on cruise ships. I was involved in financing that dome. It cost around $20 million. I made a $50 million loan to Hershey Chocolate Company. I made a $25 million loan to United Way, a wonderful nonprofit organization. And years ago, I worked just over the hill in Laguna Beach, and Joan Irvine, some of you know, was our wealthiest and best customer. This was, this was Leisure World at that time. And lastly, thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration and your time.
Thank you, Alan. Questions for Alan? Alan, are there any other questions? I'll ask you the one question from Director Blackwell. If you are selected for this position, would you be willing to sign the Director's Code of Conduct?
I would.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, I'm sorry, we don't have questions from the floor, Maxine.
Oh, no, I have a question.
Yes, Andre?
Okay, Alan. Yeah, the same question, to be fair, everybody. You've observed our process. This is a standard practice. So much time, and before that, we even spend more time in research and committee meetings. Do you have any comments on about the observation of our board practice process, and which area do you think you can contribute, improve the most in contributing to this board activities?
2 excellent questions, Andre, and I can't answer either one. I don't think that I'm better or more intelligent than anybody on the board. I would just contribute, and I always like to say I have 2 ears and I have 1 mouth. So I like to listen twice as much as I talk, and that's how I learn, and that's how I contribute.
You have to vote. So you have to make a decision as far as what needs to be, which way direction you're going to vote. It just, even though you don't speak, you have to vote.
I didn't say I didn't speak. I could speak for hours.
Okay.
So I speak too much.
So how do you make the decision on that?
Well, your question is can I do your job better than you? No,
I'm not.
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Hi. Yes, you are. Good morning. I have a prepared statement because I'm rather anal retentive, so I want to make sure I cover all my bases. Madam President and Directors, I would like to thank the Board for giving me the opportunity to apply for the position of Director on the United Mutual Board. If I am selected for this position, I will do my best to collaborate with the other board members and use my skills and talents to help this board continue to make our community a place for which we can be proud. My business experience has been in engineering and project management of major multi-million-dollar projects for power, oil, gas, and chemical facilities, and I believe that the skills and experiences associated with that work can be applied to this position. I am a team player, and I believe that in collaboration with others, more things can be successfully achieved than when one is working alone. My deeply held belief in the value of being a team player was developed in the U.S. Navy when I was a crew member of an operating nuclear-powered submarine. In that environment, 140 people had to collaborate, working together as a team to ensure that our missions could safely and successfully be completed and eventually return us home in one piece. I applied that same team player concept when I entered the engineering and project management profession. I also learned that in order to be a good team player, you have to be a good listener. You have to understand that your ideas are not the only ideas. You listen to others to collaborate and to ensure that the final product has the agreement of all parties. In certain cases, when you cannot achieve a consensus, then tactful discourse will need to be used to ensure that the best decisions are made based on the circumstances. Of course, as part of this process, you must always remain approachable in order to ensure that the people are not going to hold back on their opinions because they fear your reactions. As a project manager, I always ensured that my people felt free to come to me with whatever issues had arisen so that those issues could easily be resolved early before they become insurmountable. Suffice to say, I feel that I am a good listener and a collaborator, and I am very approachable. In addition, I have other strengths that I feel will benefit the work of this board. I am a self-starter and hard worker and not afraid of multitasking. For example, after I left the Navy, I completed my engineering degree at night while holding a full-time job as an engineer and married with 2 children. This is just one example of my work ethic, and it ties into my belief that anything can be achieved with hard work, the right attitude, persistence, and a well-thought-out goal. I also wish to point out one of my more important attributes is I think I have a good sense of humor, which is useful when discussing difficult topics that should not be taken personally. In conclusion, I look forward to working with this board if I am selected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Wait. Andre has a question.
Yes, you've observed this process. You know, we have 3 hours in the morning, and we also have probably 2 hours in the afternoon. What do you think? Do you have any observation, and also which area do you think you can contribute the most and add to the value of this HOA?
Well, first off, okay, the process is great, okay? I've watched this on TV on numerous occasions, okay, and find the process to be great. Obviously, because it's a board and you have to get consensus among all parties, it takes a lot longer than basically having a decree, okay? If you can specifically have one person in charge and say, yes, you shall do this, then that's one thing. But the board is required, okay, and it needs to happen. As I said in my dissertation here, okay, I am a team player, and being a team player, you listen to other people because I found out that when you make a decision, okay, based on your own insights, okay, without listening to the others, you're making an uninformed decision, okay? You have to specifically follow all the pattern of all the people, okay, and then come to a decision based on that. Being a project manager, okay, I could have specifically said, hey, you know, we're going to build that thing and we're going to do this and do that. But I always listen to my people because my people obviously, in certain cases, were smarter than me. I have a mechanical engineering degree. I have an electrical engineer. Why would I specifically presuppose that these people were less smart than me? Okay, so I would use their information to come up with a logical and precise decision that needed to be made. This particular board, the way you do business, is great. Okay, and I feel that since I was a project manager and I worked in various other fields, okay, whereas various projects, okay, within oil, chemical, gas, and what have you, okay, I feel I contribute to budget, scheduling, specifically any sort of things that had to do with the definition of this board, okay, what needs to get done for a particular entity like this particular village, okay? So from that perspective, I think that I can contribute.
Thank you.
Was there another part to your question? I'm sorry.
Yes, good answer, thank you.
Director Blackwell's question. If you are selected to serve this term, are you willing to sign a director's code of conduct?
Most definitely. I'm the most ethical person you probably will ever meet. And I'm not trying to coin a phrase from our president.
All right, thank you. Raisa, you had a question?
Have you had any legal or contract background?
Yes, I have. Well, not legal, contract background, because whenever, as a project manager, you have to be involved in purchasing of all the multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment that specifically support a facility such as a multi-million-dollar oil, gas, or what have you. Yes, contract stuff is definitely very important, because at the end of the day, your contract people come to you, and we make the decision to basically how we're going to propose things and what contract documents get used.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Carl.
Well,
Our next candidate is Benjamin Shavit. Is he not with us, Cheryl? He didn't check in?
He did not check in.
All right, so he will not be a candidate this time. All right, our last candidate is Marilee Stone Benjamin.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity you're giving me to apply for this position on the board. And I believe that the United Board is, I feel like it's been in my blood for quite a while, and I'll explain that a little bit later, but I appreciate your time today. Just to give you a brief background about me and what I'm doing here and what brought me here today. I grew up on the East Coast, and after I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh, I decided that I was going to come out to California, specifically Southern California, and I think that that's a dream of a lot of people, you know, from the East Coast, getting out of the snow, going to California and living that kind of dream. It's been a really wonderful experience for me out here. I moved out here, and I've been in Southern California since then. I've lived in Ventura County. I've lived down in the South Bay most recently, and I lived in almost every beach city in the South Bay before coming down to Laguna Woods. I've been coming down here for over 20 years. My mother and father have been in Laguna Woods that long, and they've lived in United that long. Somebody had mentioned before about this being Leisure World, and that's when I remember the globe out on the freeway to come in here. That was fun. So I'm glad that they changed the name, and it made it a little bit more appealing, I think, to most people to hear it called Laguna Woods versus Leisure World. There's been a whole lot of jokes about that. I won't bring them up. So I bought a home here in United Mutual about 7 years ago. So I've been here 7 years. I've been down here visiting constantly for the last 20 years. Several months after I moved in and I bought my place, my brother actually bought his house here. And he and my mother and I actually live pretty close to each other, although we don't see each other very often, which is sometimes a good thing. My brother lives or works 60 miles south of here. His girlfriend works 60 miles north of here. So they're constantly working, busy, so we don't get to see each other very often. So I am very involved here. I've met great friends, great people in my community, right where I live, really good people I work with. In fact, I've got a friend that came with me today. She's a very good friend that I've met. But we've just loved living this world, you know, in Laguna Woods. There's been a lot of things here as far as what the community can offer, the people that are here. At this point, you know, we all know that this is 50 years old, and at this point, I'm in a position that I want to be here, and I will be here going forward, and hopefully until that 75-year mark and further. So I really want to be involved in what's going on here. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be addressed. There's a lot of little things that people want to do. In my mind, maybe not as important as the infrastructure and keeping this community moving forward. So I appreciate your time, and hopefully we can work together. Did you have any questions?
The same question. You've observed our process for the past 3 hours, and we have 2 more hours to go. And talking about the residents' issues, how to make this community better. Do you have any comments on your observation, and which area do you think you will best suit in contributing to this mutual HOA activities, based on your experience and expertise?
Right. I think that the time that's been put into this, the meetings, I think that you all have kind of made some comments about, that you talk about it, we need to move them on to the next month. And maybe some things can be pared down a little bit, but they have to be discussed, and it has to be something that everybody says, yeah, that makes sense, let's move it in that direction, or not. I think that having the members coming here and being able to discuss what their issues are is really important, because I don't know how we can do our job, or I'm making myself in your job in this role, but how you can make your decisions without having the members here and making their comments on what's going on as well. As far as what I feel my expertise could be, I talk to people, and I probably talk too much. So I have no problem talking to my community, going out and talking to strangers. I'm in a club. I served on their board. My passion is quilting, and I belong to the Laguna Woods Crazy Quilters. So I served on their board. I spend a lot of time there. There's quite a few people in that group that are also United members. And I have no problem with going out and talking to other areas within the United community, and talking to them about really what are your needs, what are your wants. Let's talk about what's really important to keeping these structures moving and intact for the future.
Cash, you have a question?
Well, really, I want to comment, you have a very good goal to extend the community 75 years and beyond. Do you have any suggestions or what you would bring in addition to what we are doing in terms of changes that our community wants and needs? What are some of your thoughts?
In addition to what you're doing, I think that I stated what I think is truly important here, and I think everybody that lives here has seen it, is just the infrastructure, water. I mean, what goes on with our plumbing is, in some cases, scary. There's other areas that we just need to address and make sure that those things are all intact. They're not as pretty and kind of sexy to talk about, but they're real. And if we don't address those things, these houses are not going to last that long. I mean, let's face it, 50 years, I mean, I put renovations to my house, but some people can't do that. And they're living with what the structure is. And we need to just make sure that that is intact for everybody moving forward. It's not just their homes, but, all these buildings that we're putting possibly $10 million into. I think that, some of that's warranted. And I think that, the vast majority of people living here, including myself, utilize those facilities. I love the Clubhouse 3. I was just there the other night. Great play. So, there's a lot of things we want to do. We just need to look at it and say, what's the best way to do it? Is $10 million the best way to do it? Maybe, maybe not. So I don't know that I have any new and bright ideas. I think you've come up with some great things since the day that or not the day, but since I've been talking to my mom and dad when they moved in, and they started hearing about what was going on, and it was kind of a different world here at that point in time than it is today. And there's a lot more people involved, and that's really what it takes, is to have the members and us involved in making this place a good place and a stable place, a sustainable place moving forward. Thank you.
Last question, Maggie Blackwell's question. Would you, if you are appointed, be willing to sign a director's code of conduct?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Secretary, if you would pass out the ballots, we will then vote. Maxine, this is not open for member comments.
You know, we have nothing but names in the packet. We don't have the critiques you people have. I had one simple question about how long the people had lived here. That's all I wanted to ask, and you're stressing openness at our meetings. But here, we people are told we can't ask one simple question. I don't see, there's no bylaw that says I may not ask a simple question at this time. So I asked Alan on my own. He said he's lived here 1 year. Diane told us 13 years. Marilyn told us 7 years. I didn't ask Carmela because I thought it would disturb the board. That's all I wanted to know. We're entitled to ask.
Thank you. All right, if you would mark your ballots, please, and why don't you just put them up front here and come around and pick them up. In Maggie's absence, Janie will work with our secretary to tally the votes, and then she will give them to me. Sorry, Whitney, I thought you'd be going around the front.
Inside, outside.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I just express something to the candidates?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, unfortunately, we only have one vacancy for all 4 candidates present here. So I would like to, and sometimes from the selection point of view, voting point of view, we really don't know who you are because we don't have any record interacting with you. We just have this 3 minutes of your speech and the 2 minutes response on that. So I would highly recommend you, any of you interested in that, if you get on board, you're going to join all the committees, and quite a few committees anyway. So if you can join the committee and present yourself and talk about the issues, then next time when you come out, if you are not selected, next time when you come up, we will know you better and we know where you are standing and you will know the issues better. And also in the coming year, we have 4 candidates.
We will have 4 vacancies
4
in the
vacancies.
fall.
So there will be a good chance that don't feel upset that even if you are not selected, there will be 4 opportunities coming up which you might have, if you are presenting yourself and helping out a lot of issues, we will see you as a big asset to this community. So all the opportunities are available for you to get involved. We look forward to seeing more of your involvement in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Andre, excuse me, you took my speech. That's exactly what I was going to say. Please, if you are not elected today, remember that we will have 4 vacant seats come fall. Come July, August, you need to start thinking about it. It's a much more formal, with candidate forums and all of that kind of stuff. This is strictly a selection, interim selection by the board. So if you are not selected today, please come back again in the fall. We have a tie. All right, we have a tie, so we'll have to do it again. We have a tie between Diane Casey and Carl Randazzo, I don't pronounce it wrong, Randazzo? And Carl Randazzo. So if you would all vote again for one of those 2 candidates.
I'm not sure if we heard the forms.
I guess we're going to have more forms made. We didn't expect this at all.
Did you want to do member comments while we wait?
Well, no, we don't have member comments now. We have director's
I
comments.
mean, director comments?
Yeah, but before that, I'll just mention the future agenda items. we have one agenda item that has come forth from our March meeting, and that is to finally, hopefully, approve and endorse the handyman program. So that will be voted on at our next meeting. And then we have the issues that were brought forth under new business, the resale deposit policy, the different ones for alteration standards, and we also moved the vacant manor policy forward. So those will all be on our agenda next month. And so now we will go around for director comments while we wait for ballots. Manuel?
I have no comments.
Okay, Cash?
May I, since we are going to have another election to sort out, I was wondering if we can ask the two candidates any questions at this time.
You should have asked them when they were up there.
Because now we have a tie. So we have to select or change, possibly change one vote.
I think you've heard them both, and you need to vote on what you heard. Okay, Pat?
No comment.
Andre?
I would make my comments.
Okay, Don?
I have nothing.
Steve?
It's kind of like graduating high school. Hooray, I'm leaving. But I'm not going to see my friends anymore. So it's kind of bittersweet for me. And in honor of Juanita, it's National Library Workers' Day. And in honor of everyone, it's also National Equal Pay Day.
Oh, for our equal pay.
Yeah. Equal Pay Day, so.
Well, yeah, I have to tell you, on the boards, we're all equal pay.
It's been a 4-year run for me as an advisor and as a board member, and I'm on to other things, and I wish the community the best.
Thank you. Gary?
I want to thank Steve for his service and all of the help he has provided me, and I am going to miss him.
Yes. Reza, any comments? Okay, well.
I
then-
do have.
All right, Jamie.
I'm way
there.
over
Jeez,
here.
Way over there.
Ditto, Gary.
All right.
Madam President, I didn't get to make my comment as such, but I do appreciate what Steve did, and I wish him all the luck, and he's been good. I also want to welcome Shoban, and please make sure you get your correct title as COO, not Assistant CEO. And I want to compliment Dick for such a nice presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we will go forward with the next thing, which is a certificate, recognition of service, Laguna Woods Mutual Director Stephen Leonard. Whereas Mr. Leonard has served on the United Board of Directors as co-chair of Maintenance and Construction Committee, on the Finance Committee and Governing Documents Review Committee, and other United committees, and United has benefited from Mr. Leonard's interest in assuring clear and concise information is made available to all residents through his work on the United Board and the GRF Media and Communications Committee. And whereas United Mutual has benefited greatly from Mr. Leonard's leadership, service, and contributions to the United Board of Directors, and whereas he has dedicated his time, lots of time, and energy to the United Mutual and members it represents. Therefore, on this day, April 10th, 2018, the Board of Directors of United Laguna Woods Mutual formally recognizes, commends, and thanks Mr. Leonard for his service on the Board of Directors. Thank you. Do we have ballots? Yes. All right. Thank you. she's going to go internally this time. Inside the circle. Even though we're electing a new person right now, and we will invite that person to join us at our closed session this afternoon, Steve's term actually ends tomorrow. All right, the additional voting, Carl Randazzo will be our new member, and the vote was 6-4. Diane, please come back to us in the fall. All right, and with that, I will recess this meeting to our closed session, which is upstairs in the Willow Room.
Well, we're gonna meet again. What time are we gonna start? 1:30? 1:30, 1:40?
Well, we will have lunch. The actual closed session will probably start about 1:45.